Welcome to the high-stakes entrance trials for the world's most elite hero academy. The professor warps every candidate into a lethal dimension, where they must slay monsters and each other for points. Amidst the chaos, a boy named Leo dominates. His sheer power terrifies a top-tier prodigy, who marks him as a threat. Desperate to protect her rank, she plots his downfall, only to face an utterly humiliating defeat instead. Leo ruthlessly shuts her down, proving he's on a different level. But how is this student so cracked? Simple, he's actually a legendary titan who ruled the battlefield 5,000 years ago. 5 millennia past the primordial darkness known as Erebos, the genesis of evil brought humanity to its knees. 4 legendary champions rose to challenge the void, but the cost was their lives in a final stand. Only one man emerged from the ashes, Kyle, the lone survivor who carried the weight of his friends' sacrifices. Kyle slew the ultimate evil and saved the world. Yet 5,000 years later, history tells a lie. Kyle's legacy was scrubbed clean. Now the world worships Licinius as the savior who defeated the genesis of evil. For eons, nobody questioned the myth until Kyle was reincarnated and discovered he'd been ghosted by history. Reborn into the world he once saved, he is shocked to find his name has vanished from every record. Burning for answers, the reincarnated legend enrolls at Lumine Academy to reclaim his stolen glory. This academy guards the sacred hero record. Now, years after his rebirth, Kyle is ready to set the record straight. Our story shifts to the Royal School of Dylan, where a new generation of aspirants gathers. The instructor lectures the class on their current timeline, famously known as the Age of Heroes. 5,000 years have passed since the hero record manifested, completely reshaping the landscape of the lower realm. This year, the Royal School of Dylan has been handpicked to host the grueling Lumine entrance examinations. The teacher is hyped, convinced that a future legend might be sitting right in his classroom. But while the instructor is geeking out, one student couldn't care less about the hype. Slumped in the very last row, a boy is busy catching some serious Z's instead of listening. This slacker is none other than Leo, and his blatant disrespect is driving the teacher up the wall. The instructor assumes Leo's arrogance stems from him already mastering the curriculum, so he decides to test him. He demands Leo explain the ancient sacred ritual required to earn the title of a true hero. Leo casually stands up, looking completely unbothered by the sudden spotlight. He bluntly states that true heroes didn't need rituals, they just did legendary stuff until people started worshipping them. This is 15-year-old Leo Plav, a scion of the prestigious House of Plav, with a zero-filters attitude. The teacher's jaw drops at such a half-baked answer, clearly unimpressed by Leo's lack of effort. He sighs and turns to the rest of the class, hunting for a student who actually studied their history. Galvin, the class overachiever, beams as he dives into the complexities of ancient hero-making. He explains that back then, only holy blood-soaked rituals could grant a mortal the recognition of the gods. He specifically mentions the brutal ritual of blood, leaving the instructor absolutely floored by his knowledge. The teacher is sold Galvin of House Stratton is definitely the kingdom's next big magical prodigy. Meanwhile, Leo is mentally checking out, exhausted by the absolute nonsense these scholars are spouting. To him, chilling with gods wasn't some mystical event, it was just a regular Tuesday back in the day. The gods had actually bestowed the hero record as a divine gift to honor those who defied Erebos. Yet despite his pivotal role, Leo's name has been completely nuked from every historical text. The fact that his blood and tears were attributed to someone else is finally starting to grind his gears. Later, a buzz fills the halls as students crowd the windows to see the legendary Zerdinger clan arrive. Leading the pack is the icy and captivating Celia Zerdinger, instantly commanding everyone's attention. An intercom blast orders every student to the auditorium for an emergency assembly to welcome the Zerdinger elite. As Leo heads for the door, Galvin stops him with a smug smirk. He asks if Leo's going to try and clout chase the Zerdingers, but Leo just hits him with a bored shrug. He has zero interest in playing along with this circus or seeking approval from anyone. Leo's only goal is heading home, but his chilled vibe absolutely triggers Gallivan. He's shook by how effortlessly Leo ditches this massive opportunity. Desperate to match that main character energy, Gallivan fakes it, claiming he couldn't care less about the Zerdingers himself. Yet he's totally eyeing Celia, labeling her a rival, just to cope. Obviously, it's pure cap. He's low-key dying for the Zerdingers to notice his existence and validate him. Cut to the dojo, where Leo is drenched in sweat, exhausted after countless hours of relentless training. Grasping his blade, he moves to leave, only to be jumped by a mysterious woman charging at full speed. Leo reacts instantly, parrying the lethal blow. From the way they move, it's crystal clear. This isn't their first dance with death. This duo shares a history where lethal sparring is just Tuesday. The woman is hyped to finally test his steel, declaring this duel to be his ultimate trial. Before clearing him for Lumine Academy, we learn this powerhouse is actually Reina Leo's own mother. She lunges again, steel screaming against steel, forcing Leo into a desperate defensive struggle from the jump. Reina flexes casually, mentioning she hasn't even hit 5% of her true power, while raining down strikes. The duel escalates, each blow more violent. Eventually, the power dynamic begins to shift. Leo locks in. His insane mastery allows him to finally breach his mother's formidable defense. Forcing her to yield, Reina stands stunned by her son's monstrous growth. Softening her tone, she asks why he's so obsessed with Lumine Academy. But first, we need a quick lore drop on this place. Lumine is the elite sanctuary for human heroes, one of the 4 legendary pillars of racial power. Holding the hero record, Leo suspects this academy hides the secrets he seeks. It's the best shot at digging up traces of his past life, as the legendary hero Kyle. With his past on the line, Leo's resolve to infiltrate the academy is absolutely unbreakable. Reina reminds him that the high-tier Zerdinger clan is currently gracing the city of Dylan. They're crashing at the Plav mansion, and while Reina isn't hyped about the house guests, she has a plan. She wants Zeiss, the Zerdinger vice-patriarch, to grant Leo a favor, specifically the secret Zerdinger aura technique. She thinks this power-up is his ticket to Lumine. With it, he'd easily pass the entrance exams next year, but there's a major catch. She doesn't realize Leo is aiming for this year. Our boy has zero patience for waiting. Moving to the Plav mansion, we meet the icy genius Celia Zerdinger, arriving in style. Stepping from her carriage, she immediately judges the place, wondering what her uncle was thinking. Why settle for this when he could have bought out a luxury hotel? See, Celia is elite. The 15-year-old sword princess lives only for the Lumen exams, obsessed with reaching the top. She doubts a minor family like the Plavs has anything to offer until her uncle interrupts. The legendary Zeiss Zerdinger teases her, asking if she's curious about the disinterested boy Leo, the very same kid who had the audacity to ignore their prestigious family name. Celia scoffs. To her, a knight without aura is just another weakling, not worth her time. She predicts he'll be a total letdown. However, Zeiss isn't so sure about that. He sees something special in Leo, maintaining a surprisingly high opinion of the boy's potential. Inside, Zeiss pays his respects to the Plav patriarch Dade, keeping things strictly professional. Reina and Dade welcome their high-profile guests with the grace befitting a noble household. Zeiss introduces Celia, who manages to drop her ego just long enough for a polite greeting. As she offers thanks, Reina steps in, analyzing the young sword princess with sharp, knowing eyes. Reina notes the striking resemblance Celia bears to her father, both in looks and icy attitude. Celia notices Reina's black hair and crimson eyes, and the realization hits her like a truck. Reina is a Zerdinger. This woman is her aunt. Later, the two siblings finally sit down. Zeiss and Reina begin catching up on years of lost time. During their talk, Zeiss brings up their trip to the royal school, hoping for a peek at Leo's skills. To their utter dismay, the boy had already ghosted the academy premises. Since meeting strangers wasn't on his agenda, Reina plays diplomat, apologizing for her son's seemingly cold attitude. Zeus, now low-key intrigued, grills his sister about Leo's true nature. Reina doesn't hold back, hyping him up as a once-in-a-generation prodigy. This triggers Zeus's suspicion. Is Leo actually worthy of wielding the legendary Zerdinger flames? Reina doubles down, insisting. She isn't just being a biased mom. The kid's raw potential is terrifying. Zeus is officially hooked. He respects her word, but he's got to catch these hands himself before he's fully sold. Cut to Leo locked in deep meditation. Once his mental ritual peaks, he realizes his physical vessel is finally primed for greatness. He reflects on why he's delayed his aura awakening until this very moment. It all comes down to his unique physiology. Igniting his aura too soon would force his body to specialize, essentially nerfing his ability to farm mana and soul energy, the two core pillars of his endgame. Memories of his past life haunt him. He's seen the carnage caused by unstable power. If he'd only mastered his fallen ally's essence back then, the seeds of destruction would have never sprouted. To dodge a repeat of that trauma, Leo demands perfect mastery this time. Phase 1, conquer the aura, but strictly on his own terms. Suddenly, a familiar voice pierces through his focus, snapping him back to reality. He turns to find Celia Zerdinger smirking at him. She mocks his progress, claiming he's finally learned the bare minimum. Despite the sarcasm, she offers to grace him with some sword lessons, if he's got the guts. Leo's just confused, since he literally doesn't know her. She introduces herself as Celia Zerdinger, the world-renowned sword princess. No big deal, right? Leo cuts the fluff immediately. He tells her he's flattered she noticed him, but he's not about to take lessons from someone weaker than himself. Talk about a savage burn. Celia is fuming. His words were a direct shot at her pride, basically implying that he's the alpha here. Leo clarifies, in a life-or-death brawl, she wins because he's auraless. But in a pure test of blade skills, that's a whole different story. He's confident he can fold her without breaking a sweat. Infuriated, Celia snatches a blade from the rack. She's determined to shatter his delusions and put this arrogant brat in his place. A duel is the only way. To her, even with aura, Leo is just a bug she can squash. She wants to give him a brutal reality check. The bet. If she wins this week, he becomes her literal servant. Leo doesn't even blink. He just asks, what if I win? To keep it spicy, she agrees to become his servant if he somehow pulls it off. Bet. Leo grabs a wooden sword and lunges his speed, catching her completely off guard. She dodges, but her heart skips a beat. That movement speed, it's actually kinda terrifying. Still, Celia's convinced that raw speed won't be enough to take her down. They collide again, but this time Leo drops a nuke. The sheer weight of his strike is paralyzing. She's forced to retreat as his power overflows. When Leo's blade hits the stone floor, it literally explodes. He doesn't let up, charging like a beast. The princess is starting to regret this big time. She realizes there's no way to parry the next lethal blow. She braces for the impact, but miraculously, she's unscathed. The coward cheated. She popped her aura armor at the last second to save her skin. This was supposed to be a pure sword fight, but this arrogant girl won't admit that she was totally outclassed. She plays it off as a reflex, but the vibes are rancid. Leo just shrugs and declares the win. She's absolutely losing her mind in disbelief. She refuses to take the L that easily, but Leo saw this coming. He unfastens his magic, weighted bracelets finally uncapping his true strength. With one strike, her barrier shatters like glass. Leaving the girl utterly stunned, Leo shows zero restraint as he forces her to endure the full weight of his power. Strolling through the courtyard later, Leo crosses paths with his mother, who introduces him to his formidable uncle Zeiss. Leo offers a respectful bow, which Zeiss acknowledges, with a nod before the two men exchange a firm, decisive handshake. When his mother asks if he's met Celia, Leo's mind flashes back to her collapsing right after their intense clash, driven by pure terror. Before Leo can clarify the situation, a knight arrives to deliver an urgent report on the girl. Zeiss is floored. How did Leo crush Celia without even awakening his aura? He can't help but voice his genuine admiration. Calling the feat legendary, Zeiss is stunned, though Leo shrugs it off as her being overconfident. What was the wager? With a smirk, Leo reveals the stakes: the loser is bound by blood to serve the winner as their attendant. Essentially, Celia is his maid for the week. Zeiss hates the idea, but a Zerdinger's word is an unbreakable law. However, he insists that as a noble Zerdinger, she shouldn't be subjected to the demeaning labor of a common servant. Begging Leo to drop the demand, he offers a far more lucrative reward as a trade-off for the boy's mercy. Leo shuts it down instantly. He firmly reminds his uncle that this pact was strictly between him and Celia alone. If she carries the Zerdinger pride, she must own her defeat. The uncle's gaze sharpens as he challenges the boy, asking if Leo is truly prepared to throw away the chance to master the legendary Zerdinger aura cultivation technique. Leo fires back with a cold truth: a secret technique offered merely as a bribe to shield a relative from shame holds absolutely no worth to him. Seeing his diplomacy fail, Zeiss shifts his tone, letting a threatening edge creep in. He confronts the kid, pointing out that he's essentially calling their sacred lineage made material and their legacy trash, treating their bloodline like low-tier help and mocking their power. Yet, Leo doesn't even flinch under the immense pressure. Fearless of the fallout, he calmly agrees that his uncle heard him correctly. Then the tension suddenly evaporates into thin air. Zeiss's expression relaxes as he asks almost curiously if Leo realizes just how insanely disrespectful he's being right now. Leo reiterates that he isn't trying to catch beef with the Zerdingers. He simply has a different perspective on honor. He'd embrace the technique as a trophy for his victory, but he won't take it as a cheap payoff. He refuses to let a bribe erase the reality of her defeat. To Leo, that would be the ultimate insult. Denying his win implies that her loss was a fluke, that she's still superior. Leo isn't having any of that narrative. He drops a final truth bomb. Even if she had gone all out from the start, the outcome would have been identical. This sheer confidence makes his mother beam with pride, while Zeiss finds himself captivated by the boy's razor-sharp resolve. Rejecting a divine power just because the vibes were off, that's next-level character. This kid is truly built different. Wishing Leo carried his own blood, Zeiss signals his men to escort Celia straight to the servants' dormitory quarters. He then grants Leo a rare privilege: permission to drop the formalities and speak to him as a peer. As Leo exits, Zeiss tells his sister that he's determined to convince the clan head to share their phoenix breath. He's hyped to bring Leo into the fold of their ultimate technique. Cut to later, inside Leo's private quarters. The atmosphere shifts as we see Celia, her face burning bright red, with absolute soul-crushing humiliation and embarrassment. She's spiraling as she's forced to introduce herself as maid Celia, Leo's personal servant for the coming week. Leo is vibing, loving every second of her newfound humility. Who knew her high and mighty look would translate so well into a simple maid's uniform? Honestly, she's absolutely killing that look. The dress is straight fire on her. Celia scoffs at the compliments. She doesn't need him to tell her she's a baddie. Leo quickly offers a playful apology. He didn't mean to trigger her. He just picked up the habit from an old friend who was obsessed with aesthetics. That influence clearly stuck. He remembers his buddy always preaching that eternal beauty is the universe's greatest masterpiece, claiming that once the wars end, he'd dedicate his existence to sharing that radiance with the entire world. That eccentric friend, none other than the legendary dwarven master Smith Dueno himself. Suddenly, Celia spots something. Celia's curiosity peaks as she notices the book in Leo's hands. He admits it's an old favorite from his childhood, a classic titled The Great Hero of the Beginning. Celia realizes she hasn't touched that story since she was 5. Noticing his deep interest, she wanders over to the shelf to see what other relics he's hoarding. She grabs another volume, noting the massive collection dedicated to the hero Kyle. Leo responds with a thoughtful take. He argues that history's greatest feats are rarely the work of just one man questioning the myth of the solo hero. Achievements credited to a single legend might actually be the collective sweat of many heroes over years. Basically, he is hinting that Kyle's legendary wins are being siphoned off and credited to other heroes. Celia isn't buying it, labeling Kyle as nothing more than a fraud chasing unearned clout. She is part of the masses who believe those grand feats belong to anyone but him. Leo's blood boils hearing everyone trash Kyle as a talentless phony who contributed absolutely zero to society. Shrugging off the gossip, he grabs a quick bite before diving straight into his brutal training regime. Instantly switching to maid mode, she humbly begs her young master for a chance to spar alongside him. She is all smiles on the outside, but her mind is a toxic wasteland of pure hatred for him. She plays the part anyway, desperate to expose the hidden source of his monstrous power. Leo leads the way to the training hall, but soon enough, Celia is gasping for air on her knees. As she pants after round 1, Leo critiques her once, her stamina drains, her reaction speed falls off a cliff. Her movements get sloppy, leaving massive openings for any enemy to exploit. She is a total mess, and she seriously doubts that breaking her body like this counts as actual training. Leo just brushes it off, convinced that the youth of today are simply built way too soft. Modern aura techniques have advanced so much that people have completely neglected the fundamentals of physical grit. Aura buffs the body, sure, but a truly forged physique is what pushes your aura to its absolute peak. Refusing to be labeled a weakling, she summons every ounce of her willpower to stand for round 2. She warns him to stop looking down on her, then charges recklessly, only for it to blow up in her face. Leo casually swats her away with one move, leaving her eating dirt and fuming with pure frustration. Following her string of pathetic defeats, Leo offers her a bracelet which she grabs without a second thought. She has no clue the bracelet is enchanted with gravity magic, making it feel like a literal mountain. Leo lets out a devious smirk, revealing his true plan to force her into training with that crushing weight. He is putting her through hell from here on out. Fast forward to day 2, and Zeiss is watching them spar. Witnessing Celia's desperate struggle, the uncle is certain this humbling experience is exactly what she needs. Before she heads off to Lumen, seeing her massive ego get crushed might actually be a blessing in disguise. He drops a bombshell on Leo he is asking the Patriarch to grant him the legendary Phoenix Breath inheritance. Hearing Phoenix Breath stuns Leo as he knows it is the sacred foundation of the entire Zerdinger legacy. That aura technique is restricted strictly to those who have proven their worth to the main family line. Celia scoffs. Sure, her father will never allow it, but Zeiss seems 3 steps ahead of everyone already. He sets a high-stakes condition if Leo crushes the Lumine entrance exam. The secret technique is his. Celia is livid at the suggestion, viewing Leo as nothing but an auraless brat who does not belong. Since the Lumini trials involve cold, hard combat, Leo is basically walking into a death trap. Leo casually admits he lacks real combat experience, though we know that is only true if you ignore his past life. Minus his past life godhood, Leo is a rookie, but he does not hesitate to accept Zeiss's challenge. With his parents' blessing, a week flies by until the big day of the Lumine entrance exam finally dawns. The crowd goes wild, seeing the prestigious Celia Zerdinger herself standing among the nervous applicants. Celia cannot help but poke at Leo, teasingly asking if he is finally starting to shake in his boots. It seems her time undercover as a personal maid has her acting a little too much like the real deal. She is still calling him master out of habit when Galvin's annoying voice cuts through the air. He is there to simp for Celia, but he is visibly shook to see Leo tagging along by her side. This clown starts throwing shade, claiming Leo is an auraless scrub who has zero business being at these trials. He tries to act smooth with Celia, but the duo treats him like a complete ghost, ignoring his existence. Getting awkward, he desperately reminds her that he is Galvin Tratton, the guy who greeted her last time. To his utter embarrassment, Celia does not recognize him at all and grabs Leo's hand to ditch the loser. Suddenly, a new voice stops them in their tracks. 2 siblings have arrived, led by the towering Abad Llewellyn. 16-year-old scion of the Llewellyn bloodline, stands tall, flanked by his petite sister Chelsea. Only 14, she carries that same prestigious name. Celia recognizes the duo instantly, yet Leo remains completely clueless. Celia reveals their identity, the Llewellyn siblings, direct descendants of the Empire's most legendary heroic lineage. Seeing the Llewellyn heirs sparks a fire in Celia. She's clearly far from pleased by their arrival. She strictly warns Leo these siblings are their rivals in the exam, and losing is simply not an option. The Zerdinger clan's pride is on the line, but for Leo, this petty rivalry couldn't be less important. He's a Plav, not a Zerdinger after all. Regardless, as the siblings approach to greet Celia, she maintains her noble poise, returning their greeting before introducing Leo as a representative of House Plav, a noble house from the Delad Kingdom. Yet hearing Leo lacks a prestigious title of his own, the Lulin boy scoffs, tossing Leo aside as a nobody. They turn on their heels, leaving a chilling warning. The top spot belongs to them. Naturally, Celia's blood boils. She absolutely loathes their arrogant guts. Crushing them during the trials is her only goal. Suddenly, a figure from the Lumine Academy appears. He ascends the podium, his sheer presence demanding total silence. The man identifies himself as Albi Zeron, a Lumine Academy professor. Celia stands paralyzed with shock at seeing such a legendary figure. But Leo looks bored, having zero clue who the man is. Celia's annoyance peaks at his ignorance. Failing to recognize a titan like Albi is a sin. She quickly whispers that Albi Zeron is enshrined in the hero record, an elite roster of the greatest champions of this modern age. Leo scans the professor, spotting something strange, a massive concentration of mana surging within Albi's left eye. Professor Albi addresses the crowd, breaking down the structure of the upcoming entrance examination. Albi states the trials are twofold: brutal, one-on-one duels, and high-stakes monster subjugation. Traditionally, these tasks happen in phases. However, Albi makes it crystal clear that he finds such methods painfully dull. To prove it, he incinerates the exam itinerary instantly. Traditional rules are dead. Next, he produces a massive, ancient tome. Upon opening it, he manifests the first chapter, Prologue: The Wild Forest. Suddenly, a colossal magic circle erupts in light beneath the feet of every single student. The stage is set. Not a soul knows what insanity the professor has planned next. One truth emerges: Albi Zeron hates wasted time. He declares a total fusion of all exam trials. This singular challenge begins now. You see, the hero record is far more than a book. It's a reality-warping tool capable of manifesting the lived worlds of ancient heroes. It stores their very memories. Entering this realm allows one to inherit a predecessor's divine power. Essentially, it's a legendary training simulator. Now everyone is trapped within the wild forest. The objective is simple: survive. Form alliances or slaughter your peers. The choice is yours. Survival by any means. Those who fear death can shatter their orbs and retreat instantly. Simple as that. After a quick scan, our protagonist realizes this terrain is hauntingly familiar. It's exactly as he remembers an elven sanctuary stolen by the tyrannical witch queen Salatna. Some panicked students dismiss this as a mere illusion, desperate to escape back home. Leo knows better. This world may be born from memory, but the stakes are terrifyingly real. Every injury is physical. One wrong step in this hazardous landscape means a permanent grave. Sensing a killing intent, Leo pivots just as a lethal arrow shrieks toward him. The projectile pulverizes the earth where he stood. He's safe for now, but tracing the shot, he finds Chelsea Llewellyn. She has clearly mistaken him for someone else. Mistaking him for a Zerdinger, she's out for blood. Leo quickly tries to correct her. He's a Plav, not a target. But Chelsea, smelling a lie, only grows more aggressive. Having seen him with Celia, she lashes out with her whimsical magic. Leo watches, genuinely intrigued. A spell unknown to his previous era, yet its fundamental structure feels strangely familiar. Chelsea's blood boils at his icy composure. Desperate to crack his mask, she detonates her ultimate skill right in his face. But Leo just yawns, parrying the strike with a casual flick of his blade, as her mana shatters into nothingness. Confusion hits Chelsea like a truck. He didn't even flare his aura, so how did he neutralize her magic so effortlessly? Our protagonist chooses violence, roasting her skill level as too basic before tossing her a lifeline, a tactical alliance. It is the ultimate survival play. The longer they stay in the game, the more points they rack up together. As a mage, surely she wants to survive at least one round, but this girl's pride is on another level. Furious, she snaps back, claiming her title as a battle mage, rather than some common caster. The disrespect stung. Bruised by his simple comment, she pours every drop of energy into a strike, meant to delete him from existence. She is desperate to prove she isn't fodder, but her entire magical barrage hits nothing but empty air. Leo isn't even there. He has already moved, standing miles away from her projected trajectory. The scariest part: no mana signature. He is a ghost until his gaze locks onto hers from point-blank range. He is right there, fist cocked back and ready to launch. The screen cuts before we see the impact. Whether he swung or not, Chelsea's spirit is broken. Her legs turn to jelly, signaling a total victory for Leo. Even after the flex, Leo keeps it cool, offering her one last chance to join his winning team. Before she can answer, we shift to the Lumine Academy big shots, observing everything through their digital surveillance. The faculty is hyped as the tension peaks, but down on the field, Leo is showing zero mercy. He has her bound to a tree like a captive, and that shadow over his eyes screams trouble. To set the mood for the night, he sparks a small campfire right beneath the poor girl. The heat rises as flames begin licking the wood. Pure panic washes over Chelsea as the fire draws closer. There is only one way out of this roasting she has to stop being stubborn and work with him. But she has that main character energy in the worst way, refusing to depend on anyone else. Outside of her brother, she trusts no one, failing miserably to summon her wind magic. Leo's anti-magic seal is working overtime, though secretly he is running on empty and cannot hold it forever. She finally caves, realizing her magic is useless here, though she still thinks she can outsmart him. Little does she know Leo is 5 steps ahead and watching her like a hawk for any funny business. To speed things up, he fans the flames, making the heat absolutely unbearable for her. When her clothes start catching sparks, the battle mage finally reaches her breaking point. She surrenders, agreeing to the pact, but Leo isn't falling for some basic pinky promise. He demands a blood oath on her family name, and she frantically swears by the Luan lineage. Agreement reached. Leo slices the ropes, and just as she is about to fall into the embers, he catches her in a textbook Princess Carrie. Meanwhile, the professors are still grading the students' every move. Headmaster Albizeron is unimpressed, as no one has managed to spark his interest just yet. Watching these kids fight like rabid dogs instead of strategizing feels like a massive waste of potential. Only the power duo of Celia Zerdinger and Abad Llewellyn seem to be operating on a higher plane. Their teamwork gives the old man a glimmer of hope for the future of the academy. But then, his gaze lands on the chaotic duo of Leo and Chelsea, and he cannot look away. Sure, the fire torture was a bit unhinged, but taming a wild card like Chelsea Llewellyn is impressive. It is enough for a passing grade, even if Leo seems to lack the raw talent of top-tier prodigies. But the teacher is dead wrong. Our boy already wiped the floor with Celia. He did it without even breaking a sweat, making Leo the ultimate dark horse of this exam. After carving through a few mobs, the new duo moves out with Chelsea finally seeing the logic. Curious, she asks what kind of legendary aura he is using since she cannot feel any mana. Leo drops a massive bomb. He has no clue how to use aura at all. Her jaw hits the floor. But before she can process that a beast is watching from the shadows, the predator prepares to pounce, but Chelsea's instincts flare as she blasts the monster instantly. Let's be real, that strike was total overkill for such a low-tier mob. Even Leo acknowledges her raw power, though her technique is absolutely tragic. Suddenly, Leo's instincts flare up. He signals a sharp halt, his eyes narrowed at the shifting sands. Something feels dangerously off. Kneeling down, he uncovers parched earth and the withered remains of previous victims. The sight is chillingly unnatural. Out of nowhere, the ground erupts. Leo reacts instantly, scooping Chelsea into his arms as he vaults away from the blast zone. The cowards behind the ambush finally crawl out of the shadows. It's Galavan and his squad, still salty about their old grudge. He's come with one goal, taking Leo down. We all know he's got a massive chip on his shoulder regarding our boy. He barks an order for one of his lackeys to charge, and the mindless pawn actually rushes in without a second thought. Too bad for him, he's met with a bone-shattering counter. One punch from Leo sends him crashing into the dirt, completely sparked. Exuding pure alpha energy, Leo calmly tells Chelsea to cover his rear. She's momentarily dazed, stunned by his effortless heroism. Having been saved twice in a heartbeat, she quickly gathers herself and takes her stance right behind him. While they prepare to face the remaining goons, Galavan does what he does best, tucking tail and sprinting for his pathetic life. He ditches his own crew, desperate to put as much distance between himself and Leo as humanly possible. His only goal is finding a new partner to hide behind. As luck would have it, Celia spots him from afar. Instead of hunting him down, she heads straight toward the source of the chaos. When they finally arrive, it's a bloodbath. The carnage is jaw-dropping. The clearing is a graveyard of slain beasts and broken students who failed to survive the onslaught. Naturally, Chelsea's face finally lights up with joy as she's finally reunited with her brother amidst the wreckage. Meanwhile, Celia doesn't hesitate to throw shade, demanding to know why Leo is hanging out with someone like Chelsea. Leo stands his ground, declaring their new alliance. Celia isn't buying it for a second. The idea sounds like a total fever dream. She'd sooner believe in backflipping cockroaches than believe he actually managed to convince Chelsea, that stubborn goat, to form an alliance. To this, Leo simply offers a casual and sinister look, claiming he simply persuaded her. That wicked grin sends chills down Celia's spine as she wonders what exactly he did to get her on board. Anyhow, our lead turns his attention to the fallen students, offering a hand up. Abad is baffled. Why help the very people who just tried to jump him? Leo quickly clears the air for everyone, explaining that internal beef is pointless right now. Sticking together is the only way to survive the horrors of this world, instead of fighting for selfish reasons. Since the group seems clueless about the threat, Leo gestures toward the shriveled remains nearby, hinting that a much darker issue is looming over them all. One student notes the bodies look completely mummified, but Leo warns that the missing moisture is just the tip of the iceberg. The entire area has gone deathly silent, totally devoid of any monster presence. It's an eerie, unnatural void. It's as if every beast in the forest is terrified, fleeing from some high-tier predator that has claimed this territory. The realization finally hits Abad. As far as the lore goes, things are starting to look very familiar. Legend says Hero Albi's first grand achievement was slaying a high-tier monster. Suddenly, a thunderous roar shakes the very earth, the sound of something massive and malevolent stirring deep within the tree line. The air grows thick with suffocating tension, a clear warning that the beast is finally revealing itself. Meanwhile, Galavan is stumbling through the dark alone, clutching a flickering torch. He looks absolutely terrified, but even in a death trap, his smooth brain is more focused on spite than survival. He's obsessed with getting revenge on our boy, right until he trips over a fresh corpse. Something is lurking behind the veil of shadows, causing him to stumble and fall in absolute paralyzing fear. Looming within the darkness is a nightmare made manifest, a colossal starving spider beast, ready to claim its next meal. Galavan's clock has officially run out. Now let's check in on Professor Albi and the state of the remaining students. It turns out a staggering 500 students have already washed out of the exam. The situation is looking grim. The quota requires 100 survivors, yet only 50 remain. But Albi isn't about to lower his standards for anyone. The professor is only interested in those who possess the true spark of a hero and meet his elite expectations. The headmaster chose him to pick the absolute cream of the crop. Albi believes true legends are forged in crisis. He shifted his gaze toward Leo Plov, a mysterious dark horse whose unexpected talent has completely piqued his curiosity. The real question is, can this dark horse survive the coming storm? Back on the field, the students are moving fast, struggling to navigate the terrain as the atmosphere grows increasingly oppressive and pitch black. Celia ignites her blade, sensing a presence lurking. Her sword's crimson glow cuts through the dark. It unmasks a nightmare, a colossal spider feasting on its catch. Pure terror grips the group. Abad prepares a lethal spell, but Leo immediately intervenes. It is way too dangerous for a reckless move. He commands Galvan to shatter the crystal. Sadly, Galvan is busy being turned into a spider snack. Paralyzed by those fangs, he manages to crush the blue gem, unleashing a massive electrical surge. Lightning fries the beast's maw from within. Abad seizes the moment, channeling his lethal windfang spell. The blast slams into the horror. It leaves a gruesome wound, yet the killing blow remains elusive. The squad freezes as they finally realize the absolute monster they are actually dealing with. This is the Spider Princess Tarantula, and she's a total nightmare. One student makes a brain-dead charge. He gets folded instantly by a single blow, slamming into the dirt. Now it's Celia's turn to step up. Brimming with ego, she believes one ultimate move will end this. She ignites her most devastating magic. A piercing red beam incinerates the air, carving through the spider and forcing a shriek of agony. But this thing is a literal tank. It regenerates instantly, leaving Celia's grand assault completely useless. Abad scoffs, claiming a mere knight's power can't compare to a mage's. The sibling rivalry is real. He invokes Raphael, a wind spell that shreds the spider in a vortex. But when the dust settles, the beast is unscathed and glaring. It's terrifying. Noticing her brother's peril, Chelsea springs into action. She drops a windbreaker spell to save him. Even so, Abad takes a nasty gash from a claw. She rushes to his side, checking his vitals after that near-death encounter. He almost lost an arm. Its insane healing factor makes them look like amateurs. Darkness looms as the queen closes in. Leo reveals the grim truth. This is Salatna's daughter, a legendary calamity that once burned forests. He realizes the energy within Professor Albi matches the Fairy King's mana signature. The plot thickens. Tarantula once turned the cursed wildwoods into a graveyard. She is a literal walking extinction event. She didn't just burn the Elven realm, she devoured the Fairy King's most trusted right hand. Leo thought Luna had finished her off, but reality is cruel. The tarantula is very much alive. By eating that assistant, she absorbed an artifact of infinite life energy, the ultimate life hack. This is the ring of life. Ever, the stubborn egoist Abad refuses to back down from the exam. He thinks killing this boss is his path to glory. They launch a desperate barrage of strikes. They hope to solo the beast, but Tarantula just tanks it. Leo knows this is a lost cause. As she heals endlessly, they will simply bottom out on mana first. It is a battle of attrition. Desperate Celia asks for his strategic lead. Leo breaks down the absolute necessity of perfect teamwork. Abad immediately hates the idea, still obsessed with being the main character of this fight. Celia is not any better. They are both acting like spoiled brats while a monster looms over them. Leo drops a harsh reality check. Work together or stay here and die. It is that simple. Abad finally considers it, though he worries about the timing. Executing a combo won't be easy. Since nobody else can tank this monster, finding an opening feels nearly impossible right now. Stepping into the spotlight, Leo offers to be the distraction. He will buy them the time they need. Celia thinks he has lost it, reminding him he has zero aura. But Leo remains unfazed and confident. He claims he can stall for 5 minutes max. Abad is still skeptical about their final success. Leo is not blinking. He is 100% certain this plan will crush the spider for good. Snatching a blade from the ground, he notes that fire and wind elements have insane synergy. The Sword Princess and the Mage finally unite as Leo stares down the looming predator. This feels like a nostalgic thrill from his past life. He lunges cleanly, severing a massive limb. That strike leaves everyone speechless. He proceeds to shred the beast's face with cold, calculated precision. A sudden flashback triggers an elven child is sprinting through the woods, sobbing in pure terror. Before he can escape, Tartaros snags him with a sticky web. The boy is trapped. Trapped deep within the beast's sticky webbing, all hope for survival vanishes. Suddenly, the monstrous arachnid lunges forward. Its jaws gape open to feast. Desperate, the boy cries out for his mother as death's cold shadow looms close. Then a blinding flash erupts. A celestial savior descends, shielding the helpless child with a barrier of pure radiance. Luna's blood boils. This abomination dared to ravage her lands and tried to snack on her very own contractor. As the elven forest's supreme protector, Luna unleashes a searing blast of holy light toward the jagged-toothed monster. Her mana shatters the darkness, trapping Tartaros before calling down a massive world-shaking pillar of lightning from above. But shock hits her. She never imagined Erebos's relentless legion had already breached and seized the sacred elven woods. Drawing from his past life's prowess, Leo steps in to slash through the sticky silk, liberating the terrified boy. Now look at him. Axe gripped tight, he stands his ground alone, determined to shield his comrades at any cost. Without his aura, his options are limited. Leo shouts to Chelsea, demanding she ignite her powerful elemental sorcery immediately. Even as weapons fly his way, he blurs across the battlefield, evading every strike with god-tier superhuman reflexes. Chelsea hesitates, terrified that her own magic might incinerate him along with the enemy. But then, just do it, Leo roars, trusting his own speed. Hearing his command, Chelsea finally triggers her destructive arcane power. She can forge anything from thin air. Leo doesn't care about the shape, he just needs steel. She manifests his first blade. Dual-wielding, a curved scimitar and a heavy bastard sword, Leo becomes a whirlwind of death, unleashing a relentless storm of slashes. He carves through the spider's armor, his blades shattering. Without missing a beat, Chelsea hurls him a fresh replacement. Snatching a dagger and a heavy axe. Mid-air, Leo's insane physicality leaves Chelsea completely speechless. This guy is a beast. His movements scream Grandmaster. Even the stoic Abad is forced to admit that Leo's strength is on a different level. But he's not untouchable. A jagged leg grazes his cheek. Leo grits his teeth. Losing to a bug is not an option. If he falls here, his old comrades will clown him for eternity in the next life. Pushing his limits, he shreds the monster's hide and calls for more steel. But luck finally runs out. Chelsea's arsenal is dry. She's totally out of mana. Leo's heart drops, but a familiar heat suddenly fills the air. Celia's ultimate move is primed. She releases a massive spiraling inferno that roars with the fury of a dragon. The spider is turned to ash instantly. As the monster falls, the legendary Ring of Life sparkles amidst the remains. Victory. Celia collapses exhausted. It's finally over. Yet she can't shake what she just witnessed. She's stunned. Leo held back that titan for 5 straight minutes alone. She opens her mouth to offer praise, but Chelsea beats her to it. Now Leo's biggest fangirl, she screams that his combat was absolutely legendary. To her, he looked like a mythical hero reborn. Leo stays chill, but this girl is totally simping now. Aspiring to be a battle mage, she begs for his tutelage. Hilariously, Celia hopes he says yes, just to see her suffer. She wants Chelsea to experience Leo's brutal hell training firsthand. Now that's a real nightmare. Leo claims the Ring of Life, and suddenly Prince Silid manifests as a tiny fairy. Leo whispers his name, sparking lost memories. The spirit vanishes back into the jewel. Silid is finally recognized as the Fairy King, all according to Professor Alby's plan. They locate the Eye of Mana just as the exit timer begins its final countdown. The stage is officially cleared. Their prize, the legendary Fairy King's pledge. But as they teleport out, Leo spots a face from his bloody past. Meanwhile, Academy Principal Kalian Badian sits in his office carefully scrutinizing the latest examination results. His assistant nervously asks how many students survived Professor Alby's notoriously brutal and impossible testing standards. The headmaster blinks in shock. 40 students actually made the cut. It's a low count, but surprisingly high for Alby. He's actually impressed. He honestly expected only 10 survivors to crawl out of that meat grinder alive. This is a major win for the Academy. Naturally, he assumes Celia and Abad led the pack as the top elites. However, rumors of a new class representative surface. The fact that Alby personally recommended anyone is absolutely mind-blowing. The staff assumes it's a genius from the Zerdinger or Llewellyn bloodlines. Who else could impress that grumpy professor? But they're wrong. A complete nobody has appeared, a dark horse whose score completely eclipses both Celia and Abad combined. Back with Professor Alby, the veteran educator watches Leo Plav with a sharp, calculating gaze. He's found his champion. Leo is now the Night Division's ace. The headmaster is stunned by Albie's bold, unexpected choice. Albie doesn't just like the kid. He claims Leo Plav possesses the raw, overwhelming talent of a legendary hero. With the exams finally crushed, our protagonist kicks back in a private sauna, soaking in every drop of relaxation. His prize, the legendary Fairy King's Pledge. Normally conquering a hero's living world, yields 0 loot, yet Leo somehow snagged an impossible exception. He is left scratching his head, wondering why he is the chosen one. Suddenly, his mother's phantom appears, dropping a heavy question. Does he know the truth behind her exile from Zerdinger? To save a comrade, she lets slip her restraints, unleashing the catastrophic untamed flames of the Zerdinger bloodline. Even now, 0 regrets linger. Her gaze locks onto Leo, desperate to guide his monstrous talent toward a better path. More than anything, she is beaming with pride that her son successfully cracked the doors of the elite academy. Touching down in the majestic Lumeria city, students scramble to grab their gear before heading past the main gates. Lumeria stands as the world's beating heart, housing the prestigious Lumine Academy. Finally, Leo has set foot on legendary ground. His uncle pops up to offer some hype for his success. Naturally, Leo is confused about why he is showing up now. Turns out the Zerdinger household is currently locked in a month-long, vicious political bloodbath that just will not quit. The uncle tests him, asking if he can guess what is fueling the fire. Leo's mind immediately races to one thing: the legendary Phoenix Breath inheritance. Bingo. His uncle confirms that is exactly the prize everyone is clawing for. Though his mother is officially cut off from the clan, Leo still carries that elite blood in his veins. Plus, the crusty clan elders are actually shook by how easily Leo stomped the infamous Western examination. Since he beat the impossible, he is gifted a rare subspace key. Without hesitation, Leo decides to see what is inside. A quick incantation cracks open a portal to a forbidden tome. His uncle gives the next grim instruction: paint the ancient pages with his own blood. Leo does not flinch, biting his thumb to seal the pact. Crimson droplets splatter across the paper, unlocking the hidden high-tier secrets that only a Zerdinger can possess. The intel is for his eyes only. Mastering Zerdinger techniques is a nightmare, but Leo is not your average student. His uncle is betting on the kid's genius, certain he will evolve instantly. And just like that, he is officially a Zerdinger. Welcome to the family, kid. Later, Celia hits him up for a secret meetup at a mysterious spot. Boom. A random girl slams into him, sending them both flying. This clumsy Four Eyes panics, frantically grabbing her scattered books. She babbles an apology and bolts, but drops an ID card. Meet Chloe Muller, a fellow Academy freshman. Leo finally reaches the meeting, only to find a fuming Celia. She is definitely not happy about being kept waiting. They have got a massive shopping list, and he is lagging. He blames the delay on a surprise family reunion with his uncle. Seeing him so hyped, Celia's curiosity peaks. To settle her mind, Leo decides to show rather than tell. He summons the signature Zerdinger flames, effortlessly acting like it is no big deal. Celia's jaw literally hits the floor. This absolute madman mastered a top-secret family legacy in less than 30 days. Celia's brain short-circuits. She is seriously starting to doubt if this guy is even part of the human race. Later, our duo watches a massive vessel dock. Enter Professor Ein Elandio, the sharp-tongued lead of the night class. He barks for everyone to board immediately. The voyage to Lumen is about to set sail. The trip starts off chill with everyone vibing. Leo and Celia look so close they are basically a whole couple. That's when a cocky stranger slides in with a snarky comment that immediately triggers Celia's fight mode. Meet Thomas, a sketchy Moira alchemist/merchant. He tries to hustle the couple, offering them rare supplies for the school year. Leo keeps it cool, identifying as a student from the kingdom of Delad. Thomas freezes. Delad is famous for surviving that brutal Western exam, but Leo senses something is off about this whole vibe. It feels way too quiet. Celia thinks this is just 5-star treatment for passing the test, but Leo's gut disagrees. While she enjoys the luxury, Leo keeps his eyes glued to their suspicious instructor, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Thomas nods along with Celia, but right then, bam! The entire ship lurches violently under a massive impact. A monstrous tentacle erupts from the deep, nearly smashing Thomas. The terrified students scream for the professor to do something. Instead, the professor just sips his wine, laughing at their pathetic pleas for a rescue. He reminds them that Lumine students do not hide, they dominate. This is not a crisis. It is their first real-world trial. It is time to sink or swim against the ocean's most hideous predator. A massive kraken looms over the deck, yet our protagonist does not even blink. He is ready for war. Leo's blade whistles through the air, severing a massive tentacle. Nearby, Celia ignites the battlefield with the Sword Princess's scorching fury. The kraken retaliates with a high-pressure jet, leaving Celia drenched before snatching up a screaming, helpless Thomas. Seeing their comrade in peril, Leo and Celia lunge forward like twin lightning bolts to butcher the beast. Our greedy alchemist is left speechless. He expected the Sword Princess to carry, but this reality is hitting different. He never saw Leo's lethal intensity coming. Suddenly, a frozen limb nearly turns Thomas into a pancake. The terrified boy screams at his savior Chloe, the four-eyed girl who bumped into Leo earlier. She's a frost queen dominating the monster with ice magic, while throwing major shade at the alchemist. Thomas is just dead weight now, and Chloe isn't hiding her disgust. He mutters that elites like her never respect the little guys. As more tentacles are shredded, the legendary duo of Abad and Chelsea finally enters the fray. They land on deck, their ancient clan rivalry still burning brighter than the actual battle. The battle mage ignores the surrounding carnage, her eyes locked solely on our protagonist. As they approach the academy, the instructor smirks, calling this monster Ambush, the ultimate vibe check for freshmen. Sipping his wine, he notes the heavy hitters Chen, Celia, Abad, Chloe, and Walden. And Duran Moira rounds out the list. Each regional ace is proving exactly why they're called monsters themselves. But one unknown student is completely eclipsing them all, casting a shadow over the elite captains. His movements are flawless, dancing through the chaos as if he's already seen every single strike in a vision. The instructor grins. He can't wait to see this boy truly unleash his hidden power in class. Thomas completely bottoms out his potion stash just as the ship finally moors at the docks. Disembarking, the instructor warns them to get comfortable with the smell of monster blood. They'll be seeing plenty of it. Behold the glorious entrance to their new life, the Lumiere. The training grounds are insane. Above, the crowd is buzzing, hungry for the freshmen to put on a legendary show. The ceremony kicks off. The Night Division instructor barks for the captains to step forward and lead. Headmaster Kellyan watches from above, his gaze weighing heavy on the next generation of hero candidates. His voice booms through the hall. To become a true hero, you must be willing to stare death in the eye. Surpass your limits or die trying. He slams his fist, sending a shockwave through the hearts of every student. The message is clear: if you can't handle the heat, get out of this prestigious institution immediately. Then, in a total mood swing, he turns into a wholesome grandpa, acting like he didn't just traumatize them. Kellyan laughs, wondering why everyone is so stiff. His reputation as a terrifying swordmaster is fading fast. His aura is definitely taking a hit today. Next up, the highly anticipated freshman representative speech. Everyone is waiting for a famous name like Celia or Abad, but the announcer drops a bombshell. Leo Plav. The crowd erupts, leaving even Leo himself standing there in complete disbelief. He realizes the professor set him up. Stepping to the podium, Leo faces the sea of curious seniors. As he begins, the crowd descends into chaos, whispering about this mysterious nobody taking the spotlight. The speech wraps up, but then comes the million-dollar question. What exactly are your goals, Leo Plav? He catches the hint the academy wants him to light a fire under the egos of the elites behind him. Leo starts off humble and professional, earning nods of approval from the strict faculty members. The vibe is chill until Leo goes full savage, openly declaring he's ready to smoke anyone who challenges him. The auditorium goes dead silent. This bold declaration is a direct slap to the face of every top ranker. But Leo doesn't blink. With the drama settled, the exhausted students are finally dismissed to their dorms. Starting tomorrow, they get a 7-day grace period to explore the academy's diverse curriculum. They can sample any class before locking in their 3 main majors for the year. The staff warns them to sleep off the trauma. Coincidentally, Leo's room is right next to a hyper Thomas. Thomas is buzzing for day 1, but Leo just collapses his body, finally hitting its limit. Staring at the ceiling, he ponders his true mission within these massive, prestigious walls. He's conquered the entrance, but his real goal remains finding his lost hero record in the cafeteria tomorrow. Thomas wants to crash at the table, and Leo gives zero thoughts. But then a total vibe killer shows up. It's Duran, the Central Region hotshot. He's here to see if Leo's actually legit or just all talk. He's checking if Leo's loudmouth can back up that bold announcement. Leo knew he was stirring the pot. His speech was a massive come-at-me sign, practically inviting every ego-driven stranger to take a shot. Duran acts like he's the main character, but Leo's just vibing with his juice box completely unbothered. Furious at the disrespect, Duran finally snaps and sends the table flying with a thunderous kick. With god-tier reflexes, Leo saves his lunch mid-air and reforms his burger. Pure, unadulterated class right there. Chowing down on the saved meal, Leo deadpans that he simply can't let good food go to waste. Duran is straight-up radiating murder vibes now. Every word from his mouth feels like a literal death threat. He can't fathom how this weak freshman is outranking him. His ego is literally screaming in agony. Suddenly, Instructor Ain drops in, casually throwing his arms around the 2 rivals to break the tension. He politely reminds them of their high ranks before mentioning the spicy punishment for first-day brawling. Their faces scream for mercy. Now let's jump ahead and visit the night department's very first class. Celia's low-key stressing about Leo's absence until he finally stumbles in, completely out of breath and exhausted. She's convinced he's been scrapping, but Leo chooses the silent treatment, keeping his secrets for now. Class is officially in session. Ain introduces himself as the head of the freshman night department classes. Thomas senses the beef, while Ain begins breaking down the 3 legendary pillars of mana power. First is magic energy, second is soul energy, and finally, we have the legendary power of aura. Aura is the ultimate challenge. Celia explains it's because aura requires mana to lose its natural fluidity. She's spot on. While magic stays natural, aura requires a complete internal transformation during the conversion process. It's all about molding mana to suit the body. Ain demonstrates exactly what a glowing aura looks like. He wonders if any of these rookies actually know how to channel that processed energy themselves. Celia's stuck, but Leo breaks his silence to explain that aura is fueled by the burning of mana. He nailed it. The instructor is visibly impressed by the kid's sharp intuition and correct conclusion. Then comes the million-dollar question. What's the most vital part of the entire mana-burning process? Stamina. Leo responds instantly. Ain is blown away, wondering if this kid has studied this before. But he hasn't. This kid is literally a walking cheat code grasping concepts he's never even read. Enough theory. Ain decides it's time for some hands-on action and starts a little physical exercise. Using his aura, he creates a solid wave-like platform in midair, the legendary technique called aura step. It's all about focusing power into the legs. Ain claims the applications of aura are basically endless. While the others struggle and spar, Celia starts teasing Leo about his lack of aura knowledge. She offers a tutorial if he calls her big sis, but Leo isn't exactly desperate for her help. He's already got the theory down. Meanwhile, Ain eyes Duran, sensing the lingering tension from earlier. It's time to settle that cafeteria drama. Some students like Chelsea are still totally clueless about the fight, but Thomas is right there to spill the tea and hype up the mystery for everyone. Ain summons both boys to the front and grills Duran on what actually ticked him off so much. Duran's being a brat, so Ain proposes a friendly little race to settle the score once and for all. The winner becomes the class leader. It's the freshman rep versus the Central Region's elite captain. The only rule, use your aura however you want. This sounds like an absolute win for Duran. The day of the big showdown finally arrives, and the hype is through the roof for this clash. Thomas, the ultimate hustle king, is already busy taking bets and hosting a massive betting system. First up is the genius of House Moira, and master of the lightning aura, the one and only Duran. And facing him is Leo Plov, the mysterious dark horse, who somehow claimed the top representative spot. The crowd is expecting some fireworks, hoping for a legendary performance from the freshman representative. But their jaws drop when they realize Leo can't even use a basic move like Aura Step. The crowd sneered, convinced he was a total fraud. To them, only the Central Region's elite captain deserved the title. Sensing the tension peak, Ain seized the moment to set the stakes. The objective was simple: cross the finish line first. No excuses, and no second chances once the dust settles. The countdown has reached 0. Even Celia's faith wavered. Defeating Duran was a tall order, especially against his legendary high-voltage lightning aura. Despite the overwhelming odds, she prayed for a miracle. She needed Leo to shatter everyone's expectations with a legendary upset. The signal fired, and Duran vanished in a blur of speed. The racers erupted from the start, like heat-seeking missiles. Cloaked in crackling electricity, Duran surged forward with flawless form. He was certain Leo would be eating his dust. Leo remained unfazed by the pathetic trash talk at the gates. The spectators cheered, watching the central star dominate the track. It looked like the Golden Boy would end this in seconds. Meanwhile, the freshman representative was struggling to keep up. Trailing behind, Leo finally began channeling raw aura into his heels. He was ready to shift into high gear. The audience hissed, labeling him a lucky scammer who didn't belong on this stage. Amidst the sea of haters, one lone voice pierced the noise. Chelsea Llewellyn's passionate scream of support echoed through the stadium. Driven to crush his rival, Duran pushed his body to the limit, channeling his family's signature lightning speed. He was a literal bolt of lightning. Watching him clear the halfway mark in record time sent Carl into a panic. It looked grim for our hero. If Leo didn't pull a rabbit out of his hat soon, it was game over. Suddenly, the young man scanned the track with intense focus. To everyone's horror, he didn't accelerate, he slowed down. His momentum died completely as he veered off track toward the walls. Even Celia was baffled by this illogical suicide move. He looked like a complete clown. The stadium fell into a confused silence watching him wander away from the goal. But Leo was busy. He was condensing his aura into his feet through a series of bone-shattering, inhuman leaps. He ditched the track entirely, vaulting into the spectator stands. He looked back nonchalantly while Duran sprinted toward victory. Duran was miles ahead, but Leo's aura density had finally reached its boiling point. The fiery pressure beneath his boots caused the concrete stands to shatter. With one explosive kick, he launched himself. He rocketed back toward the track with terrifying force. The impact was so violent it left a shockwave in his wake. Duran flinched as Leo transformed into a crimson meteor, tearing through the air at impossible speeds. This cheeky devil didn't just pass him. He mocked Duran's speed while flying through the sky. Calling the elite brat a slowpoke, the red streak slammed into the finish line. His landing was pure, effortless grace. Duran stood frozen a few meters back, completely stunned. His lightning armor flickered and died. This was a total landslide defeat. Leo tilted his head back with a confident smirk. Victory was his, even if he trashed the stadium seats to get it. The haters who were talking trash moments ago were now speechless. They realized they had just witnessed something monstrous. Everyone knew Duran was the undisputed speed king of the first years. Seeing him lose was like watching a myth crumble. Worse yet, he lost to a rookie who hadn't even mastered basic aura yet. But Celia saw the truth. She realized this wasn't some basic trick. Leo hadn't used an aura step he had unleashed, a full-blown phoenix step. Carl and Chelsea were losing their minds with joy. Meanwhile, the professor stood in silent shock, recalculating everything he knew. Duran's lightning-enhanced speed was impressive and exactly what everyone expected from a genius. But the velocity Leo displayed was on a whole different level. In a straight dash, Leo Plov was technically slower, but his aura control was god tier. By concentrating every drop of fire aura into a single point, he created one ultimate devastating propulsion. It was a flawless execution of a high-level concept. He truly proved himself to be a natural-born monster. Leo approached Duran with an outstretched hand, praising the intense match. He conceded that, in a long-distance sprint, the outcome would have flipped. Still bitter, the brat snubbed, the handshake aggressively, brushing past Leo's shoulder. The professor's certain, a legendary hero is finally awakening among this new crop of disciples. Once Leo regrouped with his circle, Chelsea immediately began gushing over his incredible performance. Stunned by his skills, she begged to train together. Carr whined to Celia, wondering why Chelsea only had eyes for Leo. Since class wrapped, Carr invited the gang to a cafe, even offering to foot the entire bill. Leo bowed out, choosing growth over leisure. Without another word, he quietly vanished from his social clique. When asked about his destination, he nonchalantly mentioned he was auditing the summoning lecture. His friends froze. Why would a night student waste time in a summoning hall? Classic Leo, it's all for research. Yet one mystery still gnaws at his mind. Why did the Fairy King grant him that specific pledge? Normally rewards mirror the world owner's unique essence. This gift screams summoning, but Professor Albee was a pure mage, not a master of spirits. By all rights, he should have gained magic. Plus, contacting fairies requires a literal trip to Fairyland. The reward is currently a paperweight. While waiting at the summoning grounds, a familiar voice chirped asking if he was a fellow student. It was the Eastern captain Chen Xia. Unlike that hot-headed racer, Sia is pure sunshine and manners. The two quickly swapped greetings. She insisted on going by Sia. Seeing a Night Division star interested in summoning was a total curveball. Leo played it cool, claiming a simple fascination with the art of spiritualism. If that's the case, their paths are destined to cross frequently in the lecture halls. When he asked about her contract, Sia manifested a stunning water sprite instantly. Leo, however, had zero contracts. Everkind Sia offered to coach him through his first summoning. Leo isn't one to pass up valuable help or powerful new allies. Then came the classic blunder asking her age. She just smiled, revealing she was 17. She already knew Leo was a 15-year-old rookie. Internally, Leo couldn't believe how youthful she looked. She appeared even younger than Chelsea. Sia caught his hesitation teasingly, asking if he was thinking something rude. Men always deny the truth anyway. She had actually approached him because his race against Duran was legendary. She'd been watching from the stands. The image of him tearing up the track was burned into her memory. With a sharp gaze, she challenged him to a future duel. Leo smirked, ready for whatever. After dealing with so many eccentric weirdos, meeting someone normal felt like a breath of fresh air. Finally, the Summoning Division's intro class began. Right away, the venue felt completely off. Forget four walls. They were out in the wild. A few heavy hitters were present. With those distinct designs and white hair, these two were definitely major players. Scanning the field, Leo noticed the tiny turnout. He wasn't surprised at all. Summoning is a niche path. Just as he questioned the outdoor setting, the answer plummeted from the clouds. A massive winged shadow blotted out the sun above them. The beast touched down, revealing the terrifying form of a black wyvern. Students with weak resolve felt their legs give out the moment the monster hissed. A woman perched atop the wyvern chuckled, noting her beast seemed to like the new class. She leaped down, introducing herself as Yura Marin, the instructor tasked with molding these freshmen all year long. Yura was a total knockout, long white hair, athletic build, and a devilish vibe. The boys were practically begging to be her summon. Leo knew if Pervy Dueno were here, he'd lose it over her unique charm, a completely different vibe than Luna or Lucina. He'd definitely be making some spicy art. Getting down to business, Yura addressed her new recruits. Surviving this elite program meant they carried a spark of genuine talent within them. The freshmen roared in agreement. Yura grinned, loving their fiery confidence. Immediate departure for the training grounds, Professor Yura summons Carlo, the first-year associate mentor, to unleash the Griffins. Yura announces a mandatory buddy system, pairing everyone up since there are plenty of beasts to go around. However, the catch is that these rookies have zero experience taming such temperamental monsters. At the first sign of whining, Yura's gaze turns ice cold, demanding to know if they're even serious about this lesson. Vaulting onto her massive black wyvern, she declares that anyone too terrified to mount up should just drop out and go home. Her draconic steed lets out a deafening roar matching its master's intense aura, and takes flight to exert absolute dominance. Amidst the trembling crowd, one student remains completely unfazed. Carlo chimes in, urging the students to keep pace with the professor. As the initial panic fades, the class realizes these mythical beasts are surprisingly docile. Yet these winged predators can be incredibly stubborn. It's a total RNG game. Naturally, Leo and Zia team up for the flight. Zia takes the lead on the reins with Leo's blessing. Soon, pairs of students are soaring into the atmosphere. The fast learners quickly match Yura's speed, gliding over the ocean waves with newfound confidence. No one expected such a high-stakes aerial drill on their very first day of school. Classic Lumini Academy excellence, the fear is gone, replaced by students petty fighting over who gets to pilot. Meanwhile, Leo and Zia are cruising smoothly, despite Zia's lingering nerves. Luckily, their mount is a total cinnamon roll, but rookie mistakes can still turn lethal in an instant. Seeing the smooth sailing, Yura decides it's time for a reality check and whips out a silver whistle. A high-pitched frequency pierces the air, audible only to the beasts. The second the griffins catch the note, their primal instincts ignite. Claws unsheathe as the once docile creatures begin to spiral into a frantic frenzy. Terrified students beg the professor for backup, oblivious to the fact that she's the one pulling the strings. Yura's logic is simple: if you can't tame a berserk mount, you don't belong at this elite academy. Even a talented summoner like Zia finds herself fighting a losing battle against their panicked griffin. As she wrestles with the reins, Leo steps in, stabilizing her with a firm grip. He whispers that these are creatures of ego. Brute force only fuels their rage. With a surprisingly calm touch, Leo repositions her fingers, subtly shifting the energy to pacify the beast. Taking charge, he kicks things into overdrive, pushing the griffin to breakneck speeds. They streak across the sky, eventually overtaking the professor herself. Yura is genuinely impressed by his mastery. She glances toward Carlo, intrigued by this freshman's prowess. She questions if this representative is truly a Knight Major candidate. The records say yes, but his skills say otherwise. His technique is so flawless, she suspects he has a private stable at home, but the paperwork tells a different story. Leo isn't some high-born noble with money. This is pure, raw talent. It's early days, but Yura is convinced she's unearthed a diamond in the rough. Following the aerial chaos, the class finally touches down on the island of Summons. The beach is currently a graveyard of motion-sick students. Leo, however, is vibing, casually strolling the sands in search of a snack. Finding the perfect ripe fruit, he reaches up to claim his prize, only to spot a charred feather. His mind goes into detective mode, but he keeps his mouth shut. He offers the treat to their griffin as a thanks for the safe arrival. Once the head count is clear, Yura rallies the troops. It's time for an immediate practical exam. Talk about a rough first day. Most of these kids were just here to window shop for classes. Now they're stuck in a surprise test. Yura emphasizes that the path of a summoner is far more grueling. This isn't your average major. To master this art, mana control is just the baseline. Forging a pact with a powerful spirit demands insane affinity and top-tier taming skills. It's a specialized grind. Because it's so brutal, the world has far fewer summoner legends than typical warriors or mages. But the ones who actually make it, they operate on a whole different level. The greatest summoners are the ones who truly rewrite history. That's the magnetic hype of a summoner. Every rookie here is low-key dreaming of becoming an absolute legend in their own right. Eliza Hergen, the pride of the North's elite hero clan, stepped into the spotlight to face the heat. She demanded to know the trial ahead. Professor Yura revealed that this island is essentially a playground for ancient spirits. The place is crawling with beasts and ghosts. Since a summon is basically a weapon, things are about to get real. The mission is simple: find a beast in the woods and bend it to your will. Drag it back to the shore, sign the contract, and boom, the creature is yours for life. The crowd went wild. It's not every day you get a free pass to score your own high-tier monster. While everyone else bolted like crazy, Leo just strolled into the shadows with total main character energy. Suddenly, Eliza was on his heels. Word about his absolute beatdown of Duran had already turned him into a local myth. She couldn't resist checking him out. The class elites definitely noticed the tension brewing between them. Leo just brushed her off, acting like his talent was no big deal. Being treated like a total NPC absolutely triggered her. Watching from the sidelines, Professor Yura could already spot the heavy hitters of this new generation. Within minutes, the forest was popping off as students began wrestling with their chosen spirits. Nothing caught Leo's eye, but others noticed the top representative was heading way too deep into the danger zone. Some haters were low-key praying for his downfall, hoping he'd catch a fat zero and quit being a knight. Completely unfazed by the gossip, Leo kept pushing. He had a much bigger goal in mind. He followed the trail of that mysterious feather he'd spotted earlier, tracking its hidden burning pulse. The once charred tip was now glowing perfectly. Finally, he broke into a massive, eerie clearing. After checking for lurkers, he unleashed the Zerdinger flames within him and reduced the feather to ash. A crushing wall of heat hit his back. Meanwhile, miles away, life in Leo's hometown was chill. With her boy gone, Reina was busy whipping up some peak Ghibli vibes food in the backyard. But she couldn't shake the worry for her son. It's just his first day. No big deal, right? If she actually saw the mess he was in, she'd be losing her mind. Her intuition wasn't lying. She tried to stay calm, knowing he's built different. Little did she know her boy was literally being roasted. The air turned into a furnace. A sea of flames erupted, swirling around him with terrifying power. Standing there was one of the legendary Big Three, the mythical phoenix itself. With a voice like a roaring inferno, the beast was stunned to see a mere kid wielding Zerdinger's fire. It only appeared because it caught Reina's scent. Shocked, Leo asked how this beast even knew his mom. Fate was working overtime. Turns out this legendary bird is actually an old friend of his mother's. I am Farina, the legendary phoenix. She formally introduced herself, showing Leo the respect his bloodline earned. Leo kept it respectful and asked for the full story on her connection to his family. Farina revealed that Reina had actually saved the life of her own master, the great Ellen Lunda. Leo froze. Ellen Lunda was a straight-up legend. The story began in the depths of a deadly dungeon. Ellen had lost her entire squad in Siren and was seconds away from the Reaper's touch. Then Reina charged in like a comet to save her, but that victory cost Reina her own blazing aura. Without that sacrifice, Reina would have definitely claimed a seat among the world's top heroes. This was all news to Leo, but his mom always said she'd do it all over again in a heartbeat. Farina chuckled, knowing Reina was always that kind of ride-or-die knight. Leo switched gears, asking why a literal god-tier bird was chilling at a school academy. She kept her secrets, but questioned why a tiny knight was wandering the island of spirits. When he mentioned his classes, Farina sensed an aura so dense it felt like a grown warrior's. The phoenix roared with laughter, calling this meeting a fated encounter. It was time to pay Reina back. Farina told him to reach out. Suddenly, a spark danced onto his palm and solidified into an egg. It was the child of a phoenix. Farina hoped that when Leo finally peaks, he'd forge a bond with it. But for now, this legendary gift was just the beginning of his journey. The plan was for the summoner to claim the prize, but Farina had already chosen Leo. When he boldly asked to hatch and tame it right then and there, the phoenix nearly plummeted to the earth in pure disbelief. Before she could even process his reckless ambition, a pillar of celestial fire erupted around the young man. Farina frantically warned him that he was jumping the gun. A single slip-up meant certain death. Yet, with a focus that could cut glass, Leo plunged past the point of no return. Seeing his unwavering resolve to conquer the impossible, Farina could only watch in awe. That legendary grit clearly ran in his blood. Now all she could do was pray for his success as the hatching began. The world faded away, leaving only Leo and the primal heat within. Reaching into the heart of the glow, he was mesmerized by the dancing flames. But the moment his skin touched the spark, it exploded into a monstrous inferno. Leo recoiled as panic surged. The air turned into liquid fire, making every breath an agonizing struggle. This was the true power of a phoenix. This wasn't just a test. It was an initiation into the eternal cycle of the mythical bird. To wield such heat, a phoenix must endure soul-tearing agony daily. They exist in a state of perpetual incineration, their bodies healing as fast as they burn. Realizing this, Leo stopped resisting and let the flames consume him. He embraced the agony linking his soul with the phoenix's suffering. As the blaze reached a violent crescendo, it lashed out like a cornered beast. Suddenly, the shell in his grip began to splinter and burst. Leo's eyes snapped open, glowing with a profound understanding of the pain etched into his spirit. The fire that licked his skin spiraled back toward the egg, forcing the creature inside to wake. Stunned, Farina asked if the madman actually pulled it off, and with a smirk he confirmed his victory. She laughed, calling him an absolute genius for such a high-stakes gamble. When a literal phoenix calls you the future greatest of all time, you take that to the bank. Even before the shell fully fell away, Farina was already hyping him up for securing the ultimate contract. As the remnants turned to ash, a tiny adorable chick named Fiora emerged. Farina was so hyped that she shifted into her human form to entrust her precious hatchling to Leo. At first glance, Fiora looked like nothing more than a common red bird, totally precious. By noon, the rest of the class had started gathering back at the shore. Most of them were flexing basic summons found lurking in the shallow woods. Miss Yura glanced at her partner Carlo, checking how much time the stragglers had left. Only 5 minutes remained on the clock, and just like she predicted, the only ones missing were the 4 top-tier students she'd been tracking. Suddenly, a thunderous roar shook the forest as a massive apex predator charged out, snapping trees like toothpicks. Riding high on the back of this absolute unit was the one and only Chen Xia. She'd successfully tamed an aqua bear cub, a massive win for an aspiring knight, but her thunder was quickly stolen by a massive shadow, looming over the beach. The resident quiet kid had snagged a shadow crow and was currently aura farming by dangling from its talons like a total boss. Even elite summoning clans would struggle to break a beast like that. He hadn't signed the contract yet, but he was already exceeding every expectation Miss Yura had. The guy was definitely built different. Moments later, the crowd went wild as a shimmering, snow-white serpent slithered onto the sand with Eliza perched arrogantly on its head. She played it off cool, claiming she only contracted this gorgon snake because her family's collection was missing one. Talk about a flex. Carlo finally signaled the end of the trial. At the very last second, the final student emerged from the tree line. Unlike the theatrical entrances of the others, Leo just strolled out like he was on a casual walk with a tiny bird nesting in his hair. While the others brought fear, Leo was serving pure cuteness. His toxic classmates immediately started roasting him. They figured he was so trash at summoning that he could only manage to catch a literal chicken. But while they laughed, Miss Yura felt a cold shiver of terror. She couldn't believe this absolute madman's luck. He had actually brought a phoenix to the very first exam. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the lesson concluded, and the tired students headed back to campus. But for Leo, the day was far from over. He straightened his collar and gave the office door a firm knock. A soft voice invited him inside, and as he stepped in, he found Professor Yura relaxing in her casual clothes. The golden hour light caught her perfectly. She paused her work and gestured for him to take a seat, admitting that today was full of surprises. Her eyes widened at the sight of a baby phoenix. She never dreamed such a legendary mystical summon even existed in this world. On Summoner Island, a freshman bonding with a phoenix is unheard of. It is a legendary, unprecedented feat that shatters records. In the Academy's entire history, no one compared. Professor Yura cornered the young man, trapping him with a sharp, inquisitive gaze. She claims to see through his mask. Leo gulped hard. Did he flex his power too much and accidentally leak his identity? His anxiety vanished instantly when Miss Yura pulled him into a fierce hug, hailing him as an absolute unprecedented summoning prodigy, a once-in-a-century talent. While she is bursting with pride over his achievement, the professor realizes the gravity of the situation. They must keep his Phoenix contract a complete secret. If news of this magnitude leaked, the entire world would descend into chaos. Things would get messy fast. For now, she commands him to ensure he declares summoning as his primary major at the academy, right after exploratory classes wrap up. In her eyes, this kid possesses the raw potential to become a legendary summoning hero, a name etched in history for ages. I know what you are thinking, guys, but face reality. You will never be her summon. Keep dreaming. The following day, a gorgeous sunrise greeted the residents of Lumine Academy as they began their beautiful morning routines. Chloe shuffled through the corridors, still half asleep and yawning. Carr spotted her mid-yawn and could not resist a little teasing. He joked her mouth might tear if she kept it up. Chloe looked drained after pulling an all-nighter studying magic books. Spotting the girl he crashed into days ago, Leo reached into his pocket and handed Chloe Miller back her lost ID card. She thanked the freshman rep for saving her from a mountain of paperwork. Still, something about the situation felt incredibly strange. Why was Leo attending magic lectures? He explained that since it is only the exploratory week, he wants to experience everything. He plans to soak up every lecture possible. Chloe, however, is a magic extremist who only ignores every other subject entirely. She only shows up for magic-related classes. Carr leaned in and whispered that this Ice Queen was gunning for the top. She is aiming to dominate the magic division. Unfortunately, Carr has zero volume control, and Chloe heard every single word he said. The temperature plummeted the second she locked eyes with him. Just as Carr tried to sneak away from the impending trouble, a massive pillar of ice erupted, blocking his path. It was a flawless crystalline structure that radiated a terrifyingly cold chill. Carr was nearly sealed inside the frost. With no escape, Chloe dragged him to the front row to behave and focus. She forced him to pay attention. Suddenly, more familiar elites entered the lecture hall, drawing everyone's wandering eyes to them. No surprises here. Abad and Chelsea Llewellyn, heirs to a prestigious mage bloodline, were also present for the magic class. The room went dead silent as the doors swung open. The entire atmosphere shifted in an instant as someone new entered. He commanded the room with effortless charisma, gliding toward the podium, while every eye in the class followed his every move. The girls were swooning and whispering about how insanely handsome their new magic professor looked on his first day. Rocking a sharp, slick back, a dapper tie, and immaculate drip, Len Horace formally introduced himself to the first-year class. Meet the first-year magic division professor. He arrived, clutching a massive stack of papers ready to kick off the lesson. He wanted to start with a bang. With a simple snap, the papers on his desk took flight, swirling through the air. Each sheet landed perfectly on the students' desks. For their introduction, everyone would face a grueling magic theory exam immediately. Pure chaos erupted. No one expected a surprise test on magic theory before a single lecture had even begun in class. Professor Horace dropped a bombshell. Anyone failing to meet his standards would be instantly banished from his classroom forever. Since they are Lumine students, this is the bare minimum expected. Once finished, they must submit their work to his assistant. Hand the paper to Anna. Unlike the intimidating Professor Horace, Assistant Professor Anna was like a literal ray of sunshine. But the person most doomed by this surprise trial was definitely Leo. One glance at the first question said it all. Our boy knew he was absolutely cooked. He was totally clueless about modern magic trends and those nightmare fuel formulas. The equations were basically alien hieroglyphics to him. As the clock ticked, students desperately scrambled to squeeze their brains for answers. They fought to solve the complex riddles. Tensions skyrocketed as the sand in the hourglass rapidly drained to the bottom. Their future as elite mages rested on this single exam. When time was called, students whispered about the easy questions. Yet even the brightest geniuses failed to crack the final problem. Compared to them, Leo was completely losing his mind. He barely managed a single answer despite putting in his soul. His hand trembled as he finally submitted his paper. He regretted ignoring modern magic before arriving. Feeling totally hopeless about his chances, he fled the room instantly. The sheer embarrassment of staying in that hall was too much. He figured he should just master magic on his own. Over the last 100 years, magic had evolved at a terrifying pace. Spells, once requiring perfect mastery, were now different. Modern magic has devolved into boring rote memorization. Professor Horace aggressively tore through the students' exam papers. This guy didn't even use a pen. He was literally winging it with his fingers, while Leo realized something crucial. The obsession with memorization has absolutely nerfed the skill level of modern-day mages in the current era. Once the grading was finished, the professor decided to flex his arcane prowess on his students. He conjured a blinding orb that flooded the hall, swirling with cryptic ancient runes and complex symbols. Eldritch concepts danced in the air, the pure essence of a spell he had personally engineered from scratch. He'd coded this magical algorithm line by line, aiming to mold students into elite researchers. He wants them to forge their own path. That's exactly why he dropped a surprise test on day 1. 49 questions were just basic memorization traps, slowly ramping up in difficulty for everyone. But the final question worth 51 points challenged the very soul of magic itself. Horace dreamed of finding a student who could actually crack it. Nearby, Chelsea let out a heavy breath of relief. She was certain no one passed that final hurdle. Even she didn't have a clue how to solve it. Glancing over, she saw Leo's seat was abandoned, his paper left face down. She assumed he'd just rage quit. It actually stung a bit. She really wanted him by her side. Suddenly, the professor's speech was cut short. His assistant Anna rushed over and urgently whispered in his ear about a mysterious student. Someone had actually solved question 50. In an instant, the professor's cold, stoic facade completely shattered. He erupted into manic laughter, his joy echoing through the room. He demanded to know who, among them, had just made history by cracking the impossible code of the 50th question. A perfect score on the first try, Horace was practically drooling at the thought of a new prodigy. He was ready to groom a literal god of magic. But Anna quickly killed the vibe, no perfect score. That didn't kill his hype, though. He figured the student just ran out of time on the basics. They probably focused so hard on the final boss question that they skipped a few easy ones. Then Anna dropped the ultimate bombshell. The student only solved the very last question. The other 49 were left completely blank. Horace demanded a name. The answer was Leo Plov. Horace roared Leo's name, commanding him to rise. Too late. Even his friends didn't see him ghosting. He'd already dipped after quietly turning in his work. Breaking the tense silence, Chelsea finally spoke up. She nervously raised her hand, explaining that Leo had vanished the second he finished the exam. His score was a total glitch in the system. He technically ranked first just by sniping the final question. The legend himself was already chilling in the cafeteria, with Celia completely oblivious to the chaos. She roasted him for bombing the test. From a cute bird summon to a total magic class disaster, Celia was convinced Leo was failing at being a student. She begged him to just stay in his lane. He's a knight major, so he should just focus on swinging his sword and leave the spells alone. When he suggested some stamina training, she immediately dodged the question. Suddenly, a terrifying presence loomed behind Leo. Professor Horace was absolutely livid, looking like a vengeful spirit. He thought this knight kid was trolling him. He accused Leo of mocking his life's work. Were the questions really that beneath him? Did he think they weren't even worth his time? Leo stood up, trying to survive the awkward confrontation. He admitted he thought he'd already failed. To him, the exam was an absolute nightmare scenario. Every question except the last one was impossible. He'd only studied ancient dusty books on his own. Modern magic was a foreign language to him. Suddenly, a wild realization sparked in the professor's eyes. He snatched the boy up like a stray kitten. When he finally set him back down, Leo had never been this lost. Meanwhile, Horace's eyes were glowing with the sheer potential before him. He ordered Leo to move out. The poor guy didn't even get a chance to ask where to. Horace grabbed him by the collar, dragging him away like a kid who just found a legendary rare drop. Celia sat there paralyzed. She'd never met the legendary theory professor, but he was definitely a certified eccentric. Poor Anna arrived a second too late, missing her boss as he vanished with his new prize. Poor Anna. She completely failed to keep a lid on Len Horace's unhinged antics. Gasped for air, she sprinted after that lunatic. Meanwhile, the professor dragged Leo straight into his lair. Chalk screeched across the board as he unleashed complex equations, demanding the boy solve every single one. Horace suspected the kid wasn't just lucky. To solve that, he'd need a fully realized magic system. Deep in thought, Horace loomed nearby, watching and waiting for Leo's next move. He craved a glimpse of a new power, yet in under 10 seconds Leo was already done. Shaking with a mix of awe and fear, he asked if Leo had calculated everything purely by memory. The results were undeniable. After years of being a nobody, Horace had finally struck absolute gold. A true diamond in the rough destined for greatness. Outside, Professor Albie was just passing by. Strolling peacefully through the corridors, Albie had no clue his tranquility was about to be obliterated. His hyperactive colleague Horace came charging at him with a wild, wide-eyed grin of pure madness. Albie was not vibing with this. That smile meant only one thing, total chaos for his schedule. He noped out immediately, turning tail, but Horace lunged and snatched his ankles like a maniac. Barking thanks like a golden retriever on caffeine, Albie had to blast him back with defensive magic. Horace was always extra, but today, man, he was truly tweaking on a whole different level. Dangled mid-air by magic, Horace didn't care. He just needed to scream his eternal gratitude. Why was this magic nerd obsessed with a knight in training like Leoplav Albie was beyond confused. A magic prodigy, the mere mention of Leo and knight in one sentence triggered Horace's rage. He demanded the boy become a mage. Letting such a god-tier talent waste away was a crime. Swinging swords is a waste. Finally, Anna, his long-suffering assistant and babysitter, managed to catch up. He ranted that wasting Leo's potential on knighthood was a massive slap to the face of sorcery. Albie dropped him like a rock. Thankfully, a tired Anna was there to break his fall. Anna's sweet vibes evaporated. She coldly demanded her boss return to the classroom immediately. Speak of the devil. Leo strolled by the chaos, earning a supportive nod from Albie. Leo realized then, mages are still total crackheads. Nothing has changed. 1 week later, the magic theory storm had settled. Classes finally wrapped up. Leo was vibing on the rooftop, lost in the pages of his book. Dodging the usual drama, he spent his time researching the legend of his past self, Kyle. The legendary first hero was now mocked as a fraud. Seeing the world move on was jarring. This distorted legacy weighed heavy on his soul as he quietly watched the sunset of time. Meanwhile, the first-year professors were frantically storming through the halls, completely ignoring all decorum. They crashed the principal's office. Elon clutched Leo's file the kid had signed up for. Knighthood, sorcery, and summoning too. He chose all 3 hero paths. His potential was simply terrifying. Every department wanted a piece of him. A student mastering all 3 paths, pure insanity. It was unheard of. In this academy, you pick one lane and stay in it. No exceptions. Principal Baden just chuckled, noting that Leo felt like a hero straight out of a legend. The room went silent. The principal mentioned the 5th great legend, the one from the beginning. Kyle, the hero of the beginning, the only man in history to ever master every single class. Flash to the track where Celia and Chelsea were absolutely gasping for air, running laps. Carl spotted Leo chilling in the shade and asked why the girls were grinding so hard. Chelsea begged for training and Leo agreed. But why? Just running. Leo's answer was simple. Weapons are secondary. A true hero needs bottomless stamina. This cardio is the key. Chelsea was fully sold. She now believed high stamina was the ultimate flex for a mage. During break, they swarmed Leo for water. Surprisingly, Chelsea was actually vibing with the intense cardio. She wanted more weekend runs. Hearing that, Celia spat her water out as the training trauma resurfaced. Leo was going for a run anyway, so he figured he'd just lead the squad. Celia swore off running with him forever. Witnessing the tension, Carr probed the duo about their suspiciously close vibe. He grilled them on their dynamic, honestly suspecting they were a secret item. The chemistry was just that intense. Celia killed the rumor instantly, dropping a bombshell, they're just cousins. Leo is simply her aunt's kid. Knowing the legendary Zerdinger blood flowed through Leo's veins left Carr and Chelsea completely floored and speechless. Leo finally hauled himself up, loosening his limbs to dive back into the girls' brutal soul-crushing cardio circuit. Refusing to waste energy on training, Carr dipped out. He was ready to scout the streets of Lumeria City instead. Celia jumped at the chance to escape, but Leo snatched his cousin's hair before she could take a single step. It was grind time. Watching them, Carr realized the high-born elites in his circle lacked even a shred of dignity. Days flew by until the fateful assignment morning arrived. Leo trekked toward the specific classroom he'd been destined for, Class 1 to 5. Inside, Carr was already lounging, waving his pal over to the empty seat right next to him. The cunning entrepreneur arrived early, having used his connections to find out exactly where he'd be placed beforehand. Hate him or love him, Car's intel game is top tier. But look, another familiar face was already in the room. Chelsea sat slumped. Honestly, it was a toss-up if she was even breathing after Leo's nightmare training over the weekend. Car poked for details on their suffering, but Leo just shrugged, claiming they only covered the bare-bones basics. Suddenly, 2 bottom-tier extras lurked by Class 5, a place notorious among students as the class of anguish. They sneered, betting on how many pathetic rookies would survive Semester 1. Then a sluggish, heavy voice cut them off. The speaker countered, declaring that these 2 seniors mocking freshmen were the truly pathetic ones in the room. The extras spun around, their blood freezing instantly. Standing there was a man with messy dark hair and zero chill. With his rugged beard and a suffocating aura, meet Harold Edmund, the terrifying homeroom professor of Class 1 to 5. Known as the Wailing Wall, this absolute unit ordered the seniors to become a human chair. Terrified, they obeyed instantly. He lounged on his human throne, greeting the class as total deadbeats. To him, 1 to 5 was nothing but a failure. They were the bottom feeders of the academy. Edmund knew his brutal reputation had likely preceded him among these new recruits. He challenged the room, asking if anyone realized why he'd volunteered to lead such a cursed bottom-tier group. Carr cautiously signaled, suggesting that a legend like the Wailing Wall was here to boost their failing grades personally. Edmund recognized Carr Thomas instantly. It was a typical suck-up answer from the guy ranked dead last in the school. Edmund shifted gears, questioning if anyone in this low-rent class actually grasped the core duty of a Lumine student. Chelsea stood tall, answering that their mission was to conquer the hero's world through high-stakes training and practice runs. Right on the money. Yet all the professor saw looking back were the faces of children destined for the grave. Since they'd perish minutes into the hero's world anyway, shouldn't he just expel these pathetic insects right now? Weaklings only drag their allies down to death. This cold reality is exactly why he seized control of Class 5. It's why he earned his nickname, the Wailing Wall. But while he terrified the crowd, Leo remained totally stone-faced. The professor quietly noted that this specific brat might actually survive the meat grinder of a real mission. If thrown into battle today, he'd live. He then barked orders for everyone to swap uniforms for workout gear, then report to the training field. It was day 1, meaning it was officially time for a brutal combat session. Class 5 scrambled to the track. While the sun beat down on the miserable students, the professor had other plans. Edmund kicked back under a massive umbrella, with a lounge chair and cold drinks mocking them from the sidelines. It was time to purge the toxic, spoiled mindsets these brats had brought into this elite and prestigious academy. He dropped a hard truth, asking what would actually save them when things got bloody and life hung by a thread. Nella Carvin, a shy knight with a rare healing aura, spoke up timidly with a shaky, uncertain voice. She hoped her allies would protect her, but Edmund shut that down instantly. Wrong, he barked, his eyes cold. Your only savior is your own power. Only by mastering yourself can you even dream of protecting someone else's life. He followed up with a challenge. Did anyone here actually trust their own skills enough to guard an ally? A vibrant, fiery voice cut through the air. A girl stepped forward, radiating confidence in her own combat abilities. To test her resolve, the professor ordered her to manifest a fireball to prove she was more than just talk. This was the high-energy Eliana Laden, a dual-class prodigy. Once her flames flickered to life, the real test began. Professor Edmund scoffed, totally unimpressed. He openly mocked the pathetic scale and flickering intensity of her mana. He claimed it wouldn't even tickle an ant. Fueled by pure spite, Eliana flooded her circuits with an explosive surge of energy. Twin spheres of hellfire ignited the sheer heat, distorting the very air into a shimmering pool of flames. She didn't just add more, she doubled their size. Edmund just offered a dry, sarcastic slow clap while sipping his juice. Chilling in his chair, he flicked his wrist to summon a tiny wind orb. He challenged Eliana to actually hit the little guy. That orb suddenly evolved, transforming into a sentient wind spirit that zipped through the air with a mind of its own. It spiraled around Eliana, giggling mockingly as it booped her nose in an ultimate display of disrespect. That was the final straw. The hot-headed girl snapped, unleashing a chaotic barrage of fireballs to clip the annoying spirit. Her mana drained into nothing as every shot hit thin air. Finally, the professor stepped in to end the slaughter. What's the point of massive firepower, he hummed, if your accuracy is basically zero? This drill was designed to expose their greatest weakness, the total lack of precision in a real-world clash. To be a hero, they had to transcend their limits. He declared class wouldn't end until someone captured the spirit Sylph. Leo watched the chaos in silence. The old man's words were brutal, but they hit the mark perfectly. He realized the professor was right. Maybe it was time to join the hunt and test his own reflexes against Sylph. While the class scrambled like headless chickens, Edmond's gaze stayed locked onto Leo Plav. He was determined to find out if this kid was a genuine prodigy or just another overhyped fraud like Kyle. Even with the entire group desperate to win, the spirit just ran circles around them with effortless grace. Leo shifted his stance, channeling a concentrated burst of aura directly into his feet for maximum propulsion. He launched like a crimson rocket, shattering the ground beneath him as his speed skyrocketed past its limits. His focus was surgical. Was he truly the legendary all-class hero the world had been waiting for? Carr and Chelsea collapsed, completely winded. Then came our boy, his body wreathed in a flickering crown of burning aura. Using an advanced aura step, he defied gravity and surged into the sky, invading the spirit's blind spot. Plunging downward with terrifying momentum, he cut off every escape route, leaving Sylph with nowhere to run. He missed by a fraction of a second. It looked like a total botch, but a smirk played on Leo's lips. Suddenly, he manipulated the stray aura in his hand, weaving it into a nearly invisible glowing tether. The thread snapped onto Sylph's foot, instantly grounding the wind spirit. It was finally ripe for the taking, but a blur of motion intercepted the prize first. It wasn't a Class 5 student, but the lightning-fast brat, Duran. His speed was undeniably cracked, but he only secured the win because Leo's thread had already neutralized the target. Still, that punchable, smug look on the brat's face was enough to irritate the entire class. Another figure stepped onto the field with an arrogant clap. This pompous newcomer was Sejun the class, one homeroom teacher. Currently ranked second in popularity, he couldn't resist the urge to flex his students' superior talent. He offered a pity lesson to the underdogs, while Edmund acted like the man didn't even exist. Slumped in his chair, Edmund finished his juice and casually asked his colleague to take over the session. Despite Sejun being the flashy number 2, this lazy juice drinker consistently bagged the number 1 spot every year. The students, especially Carr, were hyped. They were about to witness a clash between the two titans of Lumiere Academy. These legends had reigned for over 20 years, shaping the very foundation of the elite school. Even top professors like Ein and Yura were once their apprentices. Overhearing the lore, the adorable Nella Carvin grew curious. She asked Carr how he knew so much insider tea, but the boy had zero riz and accidentally creeped her out. Sejun let out a booming laugh. He didn't know what his rival was plotting with these misfits, but he was game. He immediately proposed a high-stakes competition between Class 1 and Class 5 to settle the score. They chose Bastara, the Academy's historic and brutal ball sport. Edmund finally stood up, his eyes gleaming. He called Sejun a genius, shaking his hand while agreeing that practical suffering was the best teacher. After accepting, he immediately slumped back into his comfy chair, leaving all the actual work to a bewildered Sejun. Sejun couldn't wrap his head around it. How did he keep losing the popularity vote to this absolute sloth? He stood there in silence while the students watched him with a mixture of pity and secondhand embarrassment. Herod gathers his students one last time, framing this clash against Class 1 as the ultimate training ground to sharpen their skills. Then comes the bombshell lose, and the entire class faces immediate expulsion. The room falls into a stunned, deathly silence at the news. It is their literal first day, and they are already pitted against a powerhouse squad boasting 3 elite captains. Talk about a rigged game. Herod scoffs at their protests, demanding they push past their limits regardless. However, he has one more reason to stay confident. He is unbothered knowing the Academy's top freshman representative is sitting right there in their underdog classroom. He tasks Leo with handpicking 6 warriors for the fray. Leo pauses, weighing his teacher's cryptic request with suspicion. Leo senses a hidden trial. It is not malice he feels, but the crushing weight of his classmates' broken wills and shattered pride. Only a week into enrollment, and their spirits are already pulverized. Leo realizes Herod wants him to be their spark of hope. He must lead these defeated souls. Meanwhile, Class 1's instructor weaves his mana, manifesting a massive, intimidating combat arena. Leo hunts for a strategic opening, a way to drag his peers out of this bottomless pit of despair during the competition. While searching for salvation, the elite monsters of Lumine Academy stare down the struggling students of Class 5. Even Chelsea is visibly trembling. She frantically explains the Bastara rules, since Leo is completely clueless about this brutal sport. Bastara is a legendary combat sport with a bloody history. From the sound of it, though, Leo is not impressed. He thinks it sounds like a basic ball game. Thomas quickly shuts that down. This is no playground activity, but a battle. This is a high-stakes war. The Sword Princess Celia sneers at Chelsea, mocking her pale face and inevitable defeat. The taunt ignites Chelsea's fury. She snaps back, refusing to let that arrogant princess look down on her any longer. Leo stays ice cold. He tells them to breathe casually, promising that defeat is not on today's menu for their team. Celia's blood boils. She is dying to unleash her training on him. Then there is Chloe, watching with sharp, determined eyes. She is obsessed with taking down the freshman rep, desperate to rewrite the ending of their last encounter. Sejun summons the players. Leo looks for volunteers, and surprisingly, Chelsea and Eliana step up to the plate first. It is win or be kicked out. That terrifying reality fuels their resolve to do whatever is necessary to survive this match. Thomas and the rest join the lineup. Leo nods to the professor, signaling that the underdogs are ready for war. Sejun launches the ball high. Every eye in the stadium tracks its arc, hungry for the very first possession of the game. The whistle blows. Duran and Leo lunge, but the Lightning Boy's sheer speed gives him the edge in a heartbeat. He snags the ball, seizing early control. And right in the middle of this chaos, Leo has a realization. Our boy Leo decides this is the perfect moment to actually learn how the game works. Absolute legend. The basics, simple. Infuse the ball with aura and blast it into the goal, but touching it is strictly forbidden. First to 11 points takes the glory. Duran goes berserk, firing the ball with the force of a thunderous sonic boom. Leo barely dodges the projectile. Poor Thomas did not even see it move before it tore through their net for a goal. Goal for Class 1. The sheer power gap plunges the Class 5 students even deeper into a state of hopelessness. Tide starts panicking, already seeing their student IDs getting revoked. It is looking like a total slaughter at this rate. Leo, unfazed, asks how to steal possession. Tide explains there are 3 main ways to grab that ball from them. You grab it if it goes out of bounds, or if you have the guts to catch it mid-flight. Tide is about to drop the third method when a scream cuts him off. It is Eliana getting hit hard. Celia's explosive throw drills into her a brutal takedown. The Sword Princess mocks them for chatting during a life-or-death match. Eliana is down and hurting. Direct attacks are banned, which leads us to that final, more violent third rule. Force your opponent out of commission. The only legal way. Use the ball as a lethal weapon against them. That is all Leo needed to hear. He snatches the ball, ready to retaliate. Eliana is officially out of the game. Class 5 is down a player already. Up in the stands, the professors watch the carnage unfold with different views. Sejun notes that any team wielding the fire element usually dominates this game with overwhelming destructive force. And the Zerdinger flames, they are the peak of lethality. He cannot fathom why Herod accepted this suicide mission. Knowing a Zerdinger is on Class 1 makes this a massacre. He is convinced Class 5 has zero chance of victory. They have no way to fight back. But Herod, the lazy teacher, just yawns, completely unfazed by the dire situation. Herod looks at Sejun, recalling a distant memory of his very first student from that prestigious house of Zerdinger. That woman was a monster nicknamed the Empress of Bastera, and Herod is more than happy to elaborate on her legend. Sejun's kid is repping Class 5. That bombshell snaps her focus right back into the fray. Class 5 is being total salt lords, complaining and hating that they ever signed up for this academy life. Celia spots the heat rising. Leo's finally locking in, conjuring an eternal fireball that's straight up terrifying. He launches a rocket that only Chloe's massive ice fortress can tank. She's acting like she's the main character. She thinks she's safe, but Leo glitches right next to her. He totally predicted every single move she made. Leo's like, I'm scoring anyway. He goes airborne and hammers that ball with pure, unadulterated fist power. Chloe's defense shreds like wet paper. Even Sejun is vibing with the kid's insane battle IQ. Class 5 erupts. They're hyped for their freshman GOAT. The Class 1 professor realizes the real war is only just starting now. Points start stacking up fast, hitting a 9 to 10 nail-biter. Half the players are literally getting carried off the field. The speedster Duran fires a finishing shot. But Thomas pulls a total tank move, throwing his body on the line. He gambles everything to block it. He snags the ball, just as his mana tank hits dead empty. Thomas goes down, leaving both teams tied. But it's a grim scene. Leo is the last man standing for Class 5. Class 1 still has 3 heavy-hitting captains ready. On paper, Class 5 is cooked, the numbers are totally stacked. Chloe's out for blood after her last L. She creates a whole squad of clones to beef up their defense. Barriers are up. Leo prepares one final legendary charge against the duo of Celia and Duran. He launches off the turf with inhuman speed. The captains blink and poof, he's gone before they can even react. Using god-tier flash steps, he slides right past Celia. He's not here to brawl, he's playing for the win. He's laser-focused on the goal. Now it's all on Chloe to find the real Leo among the mirror images. Just tracking his mana drains her. Leo streaks past like a comet, and Chloe finally hits the deck in exhaustion. She's shook. How does a human use elven tier magic? Not even 3 captains could nerf this beast of a player. It's over. Class 5 takes the W. The crowd is screaming Leo's name while the whole class goes wild. They almost got booted from school. Sejun's stunned that Herod actually put these kids in a life-or-death scenario to win. The trio of captains is absolutely crushed. Sejun knows he has to play therapist and steps up to talk to Chloe. He asks if the loss stings. Then he drops some wisdom. Win or lose, you always show respect to the ops. It's academy tradition. He gives them props for carrying Class 1 on their backs until the very last second. Sejun is glowing with pride for his squad. His wholesome speech is straight up stealing everyone's hearts in the stadium. But Herod, zero chill. He straight up calls them trash to their faces. Still, both classes gave it their absolute all. Class 1 brought the raw talent, but Class 5 won with that never-give-up energy and pure grit. Sejun makes it clear they only clinched the victory because they shattered their own limits when it mattered most. He hopes this rivalry fuels them. They shake on it though. Celia is already back to roasting Chelsea again. Chelsea fires back a comeback. Meanwhile, Thomas is way too hyped while shaking hands with a soul-crushed Duran. Duran looks like he saw a ghost. Chloe is tearing up, but Leo offers a hand and credits her skills. He tells her that with more grinding, she's destined to become an absolute powerhouse in the future. She thinks he's trolling at first, but one look at his genuine face changes her entire vibe. She vows to surpass him eventually. Flash forward 1 month, the trio is chilling over some food. Thomas brings up club recruiting. Instead of joining one, Leo reveals he's starting his own legendary squad. Thomas totally tweaks out, but Chelsea, she's a ride or die and signs up for Leo's club without a second thought. The name, the Hero Research Society. It sounds mid, but Leo's goal is actually deep and mysterious. He's hunting for the truth about Kyle, the fictional hero that history books have completely erased from existence. Thomas thinks it's a flop in the making, but Chelsea is already 100% locked in to support Leo. A sudden roar from the crowd reminds Thomas that today is actually a huge deal for the Academy. The elite fifth-year seniors are finally back from their brutal dungeon raid, and everyone is losing it. Since hero record shards are hidden across the globe, these seniors are basically professional relic hunters. They venture into specialized hero dungeons to farm these shards. These upperclassmen are the real muscle of the school. They vanish for weeks, sometimes months, just to secure these legendary power-ups for the Academy. Leo wonders if his mother was a dungeon-clearing legend. Meanwhile, Chelsea spots the elite upperclassmen. These are the Academy's absolute monsters. Meet the muscular titan Lee Jamoa and the Southern Beauty. Beside them stands Toru Ayand and the comfy-clothed Ulta. Yet one powerhouse is still missing. The school's strongest student, Council President Reese Thomas, is ready to drop some knowledge. Suddenly, our boy vanishes. Did the admins ban him for being too OP? Just kidding. Celia snatched him. Plot twist. The president himself requested a private one-on-one. Leo is beyond confused. Why the sudden meeting? Leo asks. Celia thinks he is a total noob at school politics. You will get it soon, she sighs. They arrive at a spot that feels super sus to her. Then the Sword Princess literally tackles her brother with a hug. Yup, you heard that right. Reese is her big bro. He is hyped to meet the rookie aiming for the top. Dumpling time. Celia is low-key shaking because she has never actually eaten dumplings before. She takes a nervous bite. Her taste buds explode. It is delicious. Big bro has been dying to take her here. He has been waiting since she arrived. More importantly, he is intrigued by the son of that woman. Leo's mother was a straight-up menace back in the day with a legendary reputation. She was the type of student who did way too much for the clout. For instance, she publicly roasted the Academy's desserts. She even rallied a mob of students once. Their mission, to raid the principal's office. Celia is shook by her mother's savage past. As the siblings vibe, Leo is impressed. Reese truly earns his title as the Academy's peak. This man is a future hero, no doubt. Reese decides it is time for some dessert fun. I will cover the bill, go on ahead, he tells them. But as they are leaving, Reese finds a bizarre object in his blazer. Strange. Cut to Professor Harold's chaotic classroom. Eliana is dying to ask a question, but Harold calls it pathetic before she even speaks. Savage. She just wants to know why Class 5 still has not chosen a representative. Every other class is set. Harold just shrugs casually, admitting he totally forgot about it. Being the king of laziness, he just points at Leo. You are it. Eliana and Tide are fuming. They try to mention democracy, but they quickly realize it is safer to just shut up. Turns out Harold just wants a lackey to handle all his notes. What a total scam. Next up, hero studies. All first years are summoned to the main auditorium right now. Leo asks for the green light to leave, and the teacher just waves them off. At the hall, Leo and Thomas run into a literal zombie, Chloe. She is totally fried. She is begging the alchemist for every recovery potion in stock. She buys the whole supply. Leo is like, chill, it is only week 1. But Chloe just chugs them like water. She won't listen. As the top theory student, the pressure to keep her rank is insane. She knows once Leo masters modern magic, he is going to steamroll her in the exams. Thomas, being a total airhead, does not get why second place is so bad. Chelsea has to explain. For a tower magician, theory is their entire identity and soul. Battle mages do not get it, but for Chloe, research is her pride. It is everything. The magic tower is her life. Chelsea, meanwhile, is just annoyed by the whole scene. She wonders if the alchemist is even legit. Chloe is still looking rough despite the potions. Suddenly, she senses something. Headmaster Kalian is busy watching a damaged heroes page. Reese brought the page in, claiming it reacted to something and got scorched. This should not be possible. There was not even an ancient relic nearby to trigger it. Did it react again? The headmaster asks. Nope. Kalian is now deep in thought. He will handle this mystery solo. He tells Reese to go rest after his tough mission. Finally, he orders his assistant Elena to move the damaged page to the Hall of Beginnings. He's scheming to reveal it during the freshman joint session. Turns out even tiny shards like this one can trigger a massive resonance if the legendary hero mentioned actually touches them. In this case, That hero is Leo, though everyone's still clueless. Inside the Grand Academy auditorium, the freshmen are buzzing during their first big joint lecture. The chaos is real, forcing the sweet Professor Ardian to beg for some quiet. But they just keep yapping, totally ignoring her. Fed up, Ardian snaps and unleashes a wave of pure fiery fury, dropping a bone-chilling threat to pipe down or face their funeral. Her shy waifu energy vanished, replaced by something straight-up terrifying. Radiating pure killing intent, she rips them a new one for being absolute idiots. Suddenly, Ardian blinks, catching herself, when she realizes the room is dead silent. Instantly, she flips back to her soft, timid self, acting like she didn't just threaten their lives. The students are sweating bullets, officially learning the hard way that she's a low-key demon when provoked. Meanwhile, Leo is analyzing her aura, identifying her as a spiritualist, a class of mage that was rare even back in his past life. With order restored, Ardian finally starts the lesson. Gripping a dagger, she explains the origin of the hero records and the rise of the legendary clans. See, unlocking a hero world requires a personal relic from that specific legend, basically a spiritual anchor or medium. This gives bloodline descendants a massive head start in manifesting these worlds. It's also why the Academy hoards these precious records, meticulously guarding the ancient bonds shared between the great families. Think of it as a key fitting its perfect lock. Leo's actually impressed, leaning in to catch every single detail. Ardian doubles down on why hero studies matter. They're the only way to sniff out hidden clues. Within a hero world, helping students level up their mastery as they progress through the academy. Eventually, they'll choose a hero to channel power from and clear their own destiny pages. But the lecture is hijacked when Elena storms in. She reveals a jagged shard of a hero record just secured by the fifth-year students. At the sight of the glowing relic, the auditorium erupts in hype. She teases them with a glimpse before snapping it shut. Ardian pauses, wanting to drop some wisdom. Before they actually touch the shard, she asks them point blank, what's their real goal? Once they become heroes, Celia doesn't hesitate, declaring she'll become the absolute strongest knight her bloodline has ever seen. Ardian nods, feeling that main character energy. Chloe, on the other hand, wants to author a legendary grimoire of her own original spells. Ambitions and dreams start flying across the room. Even Thomas chimes in, aiming to be the ultimate support for future legends. Finally, Leo stands, dropping a goal that's straight up insane. He plans to completely erase Erebos from existence. This bombshell sends a shockwave through the students, and even leaves the professors stunned. Ardian struggles to keep her cool, her voice wavering as she tries to move on. The other classes start whispering, trashing his claim as nothing but edgy, empty talk. But Professor Harold is sweating. He knows Leo isn't the type to bark without a serious bite. It's been 1,000 years since Erebos was shattered and sealed away. Yet, he's been manifesting in fragments lately, and even one tiny sliver can wipe a city off the map. And here's this kid claiming he won't just stop at one piece. He's coming for the entire demon god. Shifting gears, Ardian finally moves to the hero record experiment, giving every class a shot at identifying the page before explaining the mechanics of clearing a hero world. She warns them about the dangers, promising that the faculty will be watching their every move, so they better not slack off. The hype hits a fever pitch as the students scramble for a chance to finally feel the power of a hero record. To keep things orderly, Ardian decides to call up the class reps. Celia for Class 1, Leo for Class 5, plus Abad and Chen for the rest. Interestingly, 2 distinct shards were pulled from that dungeon, though they're only testing one for today's lesson. The second fragment is tiny by comparison, but it serves as a perfect example of relic diversity. Leo steps up first, and the moment he touches it, the record roars to life. The hero's identity and chapter are glitched out, but the professors go pale as the record starts reacting violently. Suddenly, they're all yanked into a nameless hero world, greeted by a hellscape of absolute carnage. The reps and the professors find themselves stranded in a distorted dimension. They're standing amidst a mountain of rotting monster corpses on a battlefield that looks like literal hell. Trying to handle the crisis, Professor Edmund yells for everyone to gear up. They've just been dropped into a live hero dungeon. Professor Sejan's sharp instincts identified a vital landmark, a fortress wall looming far from their spawn point. Shockingly, Leo Plov recognized the ruins from the Age of Catastrophe as humanity's final bastion. These were the walls of Gardasalon. If his logic and the timeline held true, then Leo alone held the truth. Suddenly, a hauntingly familiar voice echoed out, calling his ancient name, Kyle. The voice confessed that her unfulfilled longing was nothing more than a foolish dream. It belonged to Lacinus, a legendary original hero, and Kyle's most trusted comrade in arms. Despite her naivety back then, she truly believed they would save the world from ruin, and they did. Facing a friend from thousands of years ago sent a surge of emotions through Leo. Meeting Lacinus on this decaying battlefield was beyond his wildest dreams. Her radiant smile illuminated the dungeon, shattering the illusion and snapping everyone back to the material world. This chaotic, bizarre sequence erupted when Kyle seized a fragment of the unknown hero's record, originally meant only for display. A panicked Chencha questioned the professors, but even the faculty stood paralyzed by the phenomenon. Visibly rattled, Professor Edmund declared classes suspended, urging everyone to maintain their composure. While the crowd evacuated in a daze, Leo remained motionless at the podium. Still clutching the tattered scrap, he realized the truth: he was holding his own legacy, Kyle's page. He now held the ultimate key to his mission, a literal fragment of his own history. Professor Edmund watched Leo with intense fascination as students scrambled to find empty classrooms. With classes canceled for the day, the academy buzzed. Tucked away in a quiet room, Leo revealed they had just witnessed the legendary King of Wisdom Lacinus. Chelsea's eyes gleamed with excitement. This was a historic breakthrough for the academy. Eliana fumed in regret, cursing herself for not fighting harder for the class presidency. She'd missed a massive opportunity. Carl just gave her a look that said you never had a chance. Provoked by his mockery, Eliana rained down a flurry of punches on the poor boy. Professor Edmund barged in, scolding them with a choice: silent study or immediate expulsion. With his eccentric vibes, nobody could tell if he was bluffing. As he vanished, silence fell. No one dared to cause a ruckus. Meanwhile, Leo was lost in a sea of questions. Why was his hero record a mangled mess? It was so distorted he barely recognized the world. The opening prompt even scrubbed the world's name. It looked like a deliberate act of destruction. It was as if a shadow intended to erase his legacy from history forever. Since records allow heroes to inherit divine power, sabotaging one is a declaration of war. Someone was terrified of a new hero rising and was willing to burn the past to stop it. Only one suspect had the motive: Erebos. Though shattered, his dark power knows no bounds. This setback sparked a primal fire in Leo's soul, driving him to uncover why his hero record had been butchered. A month of monotonous school life slipped by after the record disaster. Let's shift our gaze to the high-stakes magic department. Inside, the impeccably dressed, Professor Horace is laying out the brutal details of their midterm practical exam. The freshmen are ordered to craft their own unique spells, a task that struck pure terror into the hearts of these young mages. Original magic is the ultimate flex. It's a manifestation of a mage's raw individuality, genius, and destructive power. In an age of cookie-cutter activation techniques, very few dare to innovate and forge their own path. Yet a custom spell is the ultimate trump card, a hidden blade to be drawn when life hangs by a thread. This tradition traces back to the legendary star magic of the elves, which, believe it or not, is just a minor copy. Only one legend in history has ever mastered the full, unadulterated essence of star magic, its very creator: Luna, the matriarch of Nebula and a founding hero. As the professor hammered home the midterm's weight, Chloe completely locked in, but Leo, sitting nearby, couldn't ignore the sinister grimoire resting on her desk. It gave him the chills. A dark, hauntingly familiar energy pulsed from the pages. Realizing Leo was staring, Chloe shoved the book into her bag. He knew that wasn't just a book, it was a cursed grimoire. Right then, Horace dismissed the class, wishing them luck. As students filtered out, Leo bolted after Chloe and caught her by the wrist. Startled, she fired back a piercing glare. Leo just flashed a smirk and invited her to lunch with a hidden agenda. Her sketchy behavior with that grimoire was screaming for answers, but Chloe wasn't having it. She violently shook him off. She shot him down instantly, claiming she had zero time for his nonsense. Her only focus, crushing Leo in the exam. Right as the tension peaked, Carl crashed the party with his signature upbeat energy to defuse the situation. He teased Leo for having the guts to challenge the Ice Queen for her throne in magic theory. Chloe was still salty about losing to Leo's combat techniques. But when it comes to pure mana, she'd die before letting anyone take her #1 spot. With fire in her eyes, she swore to dominate. Leo realized that holding back now would be an insult to her pride. So, like a true rival, he extended his hand and formally accepted the duel, promising to bring his absolute A-game. Chloe met his grip with a cold, hollow gaze. Man, the Ice Queen has never looked more focused. Meanwhile, Carl was just fanboying in the back, impressed by Leo's smooth move to get a girl to hold his hand. As the sun began to dip, Leo arrived at the imposing monolithic Tower of Heroes. Hidden somewhere within this giant fortress lies the Forbidden Library. It's his only hope for clues, to solve the riddle of his missing records. As he climbed the grand staircase, his natural charisma turned every head. Midway up, a voice called out his full name. Standing there was a senior with sun-kissed skin, rocking curly hair and oversized glasses. Honestly, she was a total baddie, casually popping her bubblegum. She's heard the hype about the freshman prodigy from Horace himself. Meet Teruya Ayan, a powerhouse fifth-year mage. Leo gave a respectful bow, keeping it professional. He tried to brush past her, but she wasn't done yet. Teruya blocked his path with her long legs, preventing him from moving another inch upward. She demanded to know what a little freshman was doing prowling around the Tower of Heroes. Leo didn't blink. He told her straight up he was there to see the council president. His stone-cold confidence clearly piqued her interest. She pushed him hard to commit fully to the magic department. She was surprisingly aggressive about his future. Even though he was already enrolled, Terua finally decided to stop the hazing and lowered her leg. Leo thanked her and kept moving, but her parting words carried a sharp, threatening edge. She made it clear, declare magic as his primary focus by semester's end or else. The choice was his. Leo just offered a flawless, polite smile. Reaching the summit, he encountered a few more seniors. Cramming into an elevator, he hopped in with them and slammed the button for the 9th floor. Awkwardly, the light refused to flicker on. He kept mashing the button, but the lift wouldn't budge. He kept clicking like a madman, his patience wearing thin with this glitchy elevator. He would have been stuck there forever if a calm voice hadn't stepped in to explain the trick. These buttons only respond when you infuse them with mana. The deep voice belonged to another senior who recognized Leo. This newcomer radiated a much warmer energy than Terua. Meet Lisamoa, a friendly giant. A fifth-year knight, he flashed our famous freshman representative another wide, toothy grin. Leo returned a respectful bow to his senior. Just like Terua before him, Lisamoa wondered what brought him to the tower. Leo mentioned meeting the student council president. His calm smile sparked Lisamoa's curiosity. Most freshmen are absolutely terrified of upperclassmen. Yet here was Leo bold enough to march into the president's office completely alone. Impressed by his unshakable grit, the senior urged Leo to officially join the night department. Leo just gave a weary laugh. He'd heard this pitch way too many times already. Finally, after escaping all those draining distractions, Leo reached his final destination. He knocked, announced himself, and requested entry. A mellow, welcoming voice invited him inside. President Reese was buried under mountains of paperwork as twilight approached, yet he smiled. Knowing time was precious, Leo skipped the small talk and got straight to business. He dropped a bombshell. He needed access to the Academy's sacred forbidden library. Reese's expression turned deadly serious. He knew Leo wasn't the type to joke about this. There are only 2 ways for an ordinary student to enter that restricted vault. First, you must conquer a hero dungeon, a legendary feat easier said than done. The victor must personally return retrieved records to the hero files kept there. Realizing that path was currently blocked, Leo asked about the secret second method. Reese leaned in with a sly smirk, promising the secret once Leo joined the council. Days after being cornered by seniors, the night department's practical exam finally arrived. The Academy's open stadium was packed for the first day of this massive assessment. Students and faculty alike filled the stands, buzzing with intense anticipation for the duels. Always chasing the bag, Carl rolled out a popcorn cart to work the crowd. His pitch was simple. You can't enjoy these epic matches without a snack, right? Chelsea didn't know whether to be impressed or totally embarrassed by his hustle. Eliana joked that Carl would be filthy rich if he weren't stuck at the Academy. Leo scanned the spectators from the lineup. As expected, Chloe was nowhere to be seen. Professor Ein glared at the students, his gaze heavy with the seriousness of the test. Without a second's delay, he announced the pair for the opening sparring match. First up was Class 1's Hall Snape, a guy with a devious, untrustworthy vibe. His opponent, our very own Leo Plav. The crowd roared as they took the stage. Meanwhile, Carl was hunting big fish, locking his eyes onto Professor Sajin's direction. He scurried toward the grumpy instructor, eager to earn some serious dough. Samples in hand, he offered the professor a premium snack combo for the fight. Sajin huffed. Acting like eating popcorn was far beneath his noble status. He claimed only messy slobs like Professor Harlan would indulge in such things. Seeing the tough sell, Carl looked toward Class 1 for a tactical assist. Celia caught his drift instantly. It was time for her secret weapon. She dialed her charm up to 11, asking if the professor was treating the class. The trap was set. Carl rallied the students to cheer for their teacher's generosity. Hearing his students chant his name, Sajin's icy resolve finally began to crumble. Underneath that snobbery, he was just a teacher craving his students' affection. The professor finally folded, ordering a round of snacks for every single student. While Carl raked in the gold, the fighters moved into their starting stances. With a chillingly confident smirk, Leo told his opponent he was the first victim. Our freshman rep didn't even register as a threat to him. Now, this Snake Boy is about to learn a lesson in regret he'll never forget. Hall Snape comes from the legendary Snape bloodline. Before the opening bell rings, let's get a breakdown from our resident commentator. Check it out. The Night Department midterms are basically a gauntlet of duels. Securing 5 consecutive victories guarantees a passing grade. Tension grips the stadium even though the crowd knows that Leo is the top freshman. Very few have actually witnessed his power since he's triple majoring like a madman. Spectators assume he's spread too thin compared to specialists. Plus, Hall is ranked 3rd in Class 1, trailing only behind titans like Celia and Duran. Armed with a spear, his aura is notoriously jagged and venomous. Spinning his weapon with lethal precision, Hall flexed his prowess. To him, Leo was just some arrogant brat who's always hanging around Celia. Professor Ain issued the final warning: the warrior who completely neutralizes their foe claims the win. They were told to treat this spar like a life-or-death struggle. The moment the signal flared, Leo froze. A long-forgotten malevolent energy suddenly washed over his senses. Shocker, that sinister vibe wasn't coming from his opponent. It was radiating from the Lumine campus instead. This oily, revolting dark pressure crawled into his skull, screaming a deadly warning. Little did he know, this corruption was leaking from the library, where Chloe was buried in ancient scrolls. Grinding for the magic midterms, her failed formulas littered the floor like a graveyard of mediocre ideas. The Ice Queen was finally cracking under the weight of expectations. Her own brilliance wasn't enough to forge a spell unique enough to dominate, pushed to the edge. She lashed out at the mountain of books on her desk. Leo's monstrous talent was living rent-free, in her head slowly devouring her spirit. Her obsession with surpassing the boy wonder pushed her to the breaking point. As she scanned the mess on the floor, one specific tome seemed to whisper her name. It was that cursed grimoire she'd been holding on to. With no other options, she convinced herself this relic was her ticket to the top. Fueled by a desperate need to remain number one, her mental shields collapsed, leaving her open to a foreign darkness. This internal crisis and the grimoire's foul energy were so intense they literally shook Leo's focus, right in the middle of his duel. Noticing Leo's sudden lapse in concentration, Hall lunged forward to punish the opening. He thrust his spear straight for Leo's dome. Luckily, our hero snapped back and danced away just in time. Backing off, Hall unleashed his family's secret art, morphing his spear tip into a jagged, toxic whip. This snake spear slithered through the air with zero predictability, closing the gap until it was inches from Leo's heart. Staying cool as ice, Leo snatched the blade with his bare hand without flinching. Hall Snape was stunned. The sheer physical force needed to halt that momentum was insane. Paralyzed by shock, Hall's grip faltered as Leo ripped the weapon clean out of his grasp. Too stubborn to let go, the poor guy was dragged along like a helpless kite. He looked like a total clown. Once he was in range, Leo dialed up the humiliation. By delivering a heavy kiss to Hall's jaw with a reinforced fist, it sent the snake boy tumbling across the dirt like a discarded toy. A momentary distraction was one thing, but a battle-hardened vet like Leo would never lose his cool for long. Absolutely fuming from that embarrassing trade, Hall Snape overclocked his aura, flooding the stage with a poisonous haze. He barked at Leo to quit playing around, claiming the real fight was only starting. As he pumped out thick green clouds, the entire ring turned into a toxic swamp. Hall bet everything on the rumors that Leo couldn't use aura planning to exploit that massive disadvantage. Physical strength meant nothing if you lacked the basics. Seeing the emerald fog creeping closer, Leo ignited his own blazing aura, actually impressed by such a rare poison element. As the mist closed in, Leo casually incinerated the toxins with zero effort. Still high on his own supply, Hall doubled down. He figured unless those flames were Celia level, he'd still come out on top. While the snake boy was busy stroking his own ego, Leo had already blitzed through the fog, completely untouched. Judgment Day had arrived for this cocky brat. Leo closed the remaining distance with a predatory, calculated stride. Radiating pure main character energy, his flames completely vaporized the toxic mist. As the arena erupted in a dazzling light show, the crowd went wild, popcorn flying everywhere. From the elite section, Duran watched with his trademark soul-crushing scowl. Celia stood frozen in utter shock, while Chelsea fangirled hard. To her, Leo was the definition of perfection. Celia couldn't fathom that Leo's pyrokinesis had reached such a monstrous god-tier level. Rest in peace, Hall. Sif winced as the blistering heat intensified with every step Leo took. According to his calculations, Leo's firepower now rivaled Celia's, the Academy's top-ranked prodigy. It was insane that a student, juggling every major, could be such a beastly swordsman. Regardless, Hall steeled his nerves for one last stand. He reached deep for his hidden trump card, a secret technique he'd been saving specifically to dethrone Celia. Using it against Leo Plav in round 1 was never the plan. He molded his energy into a venomous viper, conjuring a serpentine cage that lunged at his target. Intrigued by the flashy move, Leo deliberately stepped into the trap, casually studying the spectral beast like a bored scientist. Hall actually thought he'd won, shooting a shy, blushing look toward Celia in the bleachers to show off. He'd poured his soul into this skill to bridge the gap between them, feeling peak confidence in this debut. In response to his clumsy flirting, Celia just sighed and gestured toward the actual battleground. Hall's ego blinded him to the fact that Leo was already boiling his snake prison alive from within, leaving the serpent's body sizzling and melting under the pressure. With a mere flick of his will, Leo shattered the pathetic spell like glass. Hall gasped in horror as his life's work turned to ash, like it was nothing but garbage. Fuming, he ditched his aura and charged forward with raw, desperate steel. Leo hadn't even unsheathed his blade until this very second. In a flash, he deflected the oncoming spear, with bone-shattering power disarming his foe instantly. Pressing cold steel against Hall's throat, he whispered a chilling warning, "Don't blink, or you'll burn." As the loser collapsed, Professor Ain declared the official verdict. Total annihilation. Leo Plov was the victor. Chelsea's heart practically did a somersault as she screamed his name. Carl just smirked, knowing his best friend wouldn't even break a sweat in a low-diff fight like this. Retreating in shame, Hall finally realized that Leo was just built different when the blades started swinging. The power gap was insane. But then a voice he'd recognize anywhere called out to him. Despite his crushing defeat, he looked up to find Celia smiling, genuinely praising his cool technique. Validation from his crush. Suddenly the loss didn't sting so much. He'd treasure those words. Forever. Moving on, the professor summoned Class 5's fiery Spitfire Eliana Lawton to the ring. Bursting with hype, Eliana demanded to face her challenger immediately, her energy practically sparking. But when Chenxia's name was called, Eliana's bravado evaporated instantly. She wanted a fight. But she'd just walked into a nightmare against one of the Academy's big three. Both warriors squared off the tension thick as they awaited the starting bell. Chenxia bowed with terrifying grace and a calm smile. Even her kindness felt heavy with power. Not one to retreat, Eliana met that gaze with a gritty, stubborn grin of her own. The second the signal rang, Chenxia's mana flowed like a graceful yet deadly tidal wave. Water swirled around her in a lethal dance, clashing against Eliana's chaotic, blazing aura. Gripping her rapier, Eliana transformed into a red blur, lunging forward with a high-speed thrust. Chenxia simply encased herself in a liquid fortress. From the sidelines, Leo realized the danger. A rapier sting is bad, but slamming full tilt into a pressurized water shield, that's a total disaster. Eliana played it too aggressive. Her all-or-nothing gamble backfired spectacularly in an instant. That sphere wasn't just a shield, it was a trap designed to drown and crush anyone inside. Round 2 went to the Calm Master. Eliana struggled to her feet, brushing off the sting of a one-shot defeat. She was bruised, but her spirit remained unbroken. Leo saw it coming. A terrible matchup from the start, though she could have lasted longer with a better strategy. Things might have ended better for Eliana if she had simply kept her cool during the heat of battle. For the day's third round, Professor Ein called up the Night Department's star Class 1's very own, Celia Zerdinger. To everyone's shock, this third match turned into a massive blockbuster showdown that nobody expected this early on. Celia's rival was none other than Duran Moira, the guy perpetually stuck in second place. Celia flashed her brooding classmate a smirk. She could already feel the hype, but Duran's intense expression proved he was taking this spar way too seriously. Up in the bleachers, Carl somehow scored some 3D glasses while totally vibing on his own supply of snacks. He slid the entire bucket over to Leo to share. Every eye was glued to the stage for this rare clash of titans. The atmosphere was absolutely electric. The arena began to sizzle as the energy reached a devastating breaking point. Both of their aggressive auras roared to life. With steel drawn, the duel to decide the true top student finally began. This was for the #1 spot in the Night Department. The moment the signal flared, the chaos erupted. Grumpy Duran made his move instantly with a lightning-fast dash. His entire body and sword seemed to meld into one. He looked like thundering destruction incarnate, but Celia was a high-tier swordmaster who was not to be trifled with. Her reflexes were cracked easily, parrying his opening flurry without breaking a sweat. For the freshmen, this was legendary. It was their first time witnessing the top scorer's true combat power, and they were completely glued to the action. On the sidelines, Carl asked Leo who he was betting on. Shoveling popcorn, Leo claimed Celia would lose at this rate. Carl was stunned by Leo's cold analysis, yet he refused to count his talented cousin out of the fight just yet. Even from the stands, he could see the icy, calculated focus burning in her eyes. He knew she was cooking. The girl was definitely hiding a secret weapon for the perfect moment. Suddenly, Duran shifted gears and unleashed a relentless assault. Duran cranked his speed to another level, nearly grazing Celia's neck with a lethal strike that caught her off guard. Only her raw instincts allowed her to dodge by a hair's breadth. Sensing victory, Duran pressed his advantage to overwhelm her. He lunged into close-quarters combat, a massive mistake. Celia hoisted her ornate blade, and the entire world began to burn. She summoned an inferno that completely eclipsed every other flame seen today. It roared with a wild, blinding intensity. The arena's protective shields began to flicker, struggling to contain her raw power. The freshmen were absolutely shook by the display. They had never seen high-level combat like this. Leo praised Celia's insane patience and perfect timing for that brilliant move. When Carl looked confused, Leo explained that in this cramped arena, Celia had essentially set the ultimate trap. Since she could not match Duran's raw speed, she simply transformed the entire battlefield into her own personal burning stage. By seizing the home court advantage, she forced Duran into a corner, where every single movement became a deadly risk. He had to be incredibly careful unless he wanted to be scorched alive by her blazing aura. Plus, the heat was blinding. The scorching temperature made it impossible to see. Celia was already elite, but she'd become even craftier with her abilities. She basically unleashed a domain expansion, slowly roasting the grumpy blondie as the heat sapped his strength away. Exploiting a gap in his guard, she seemingly teleported behind him. Her fiery slash was aimed to end it all. Only Duran's desperate reaction speed saved him. Pushing past his physical limits, he gritted his teeth for one last stand. He swung his sword in a final act of desperation, but losing your cool against Celia is a total death sentence. She completely shut down his offense by catching his lethal blade with her bare hands like an absolute boss. Once her flames covered the arena, she moved from defense to total domination. Her savage side finally came out to play. Ending the bout with a total curveball, Celia ditched her sword and slammed her forehead right into Duran's face. That brutal headbutt knocked the grumpy blondie out cold. Extinguishing her flames, Celia Zerdinger claimed her well-earned victory. The crowd went absolutely wild. While dusting off her uniform, she hit him with some spicy parting advice. She suggested Duran hit the gym more instead of just relying on his speed. He finally started to wake up. After being dazed by the headbutt, Duran accepted her hand to pull himself off the grass. The academy press went wild. Everyone shipping the number 1 and 2 students loved the sight. Leo was just happy her brutal training paid off. Suddenly, the nosy Professor Edmund spawned right behind them, munching on some of the boys' popcorn. It turns out he had been eavesdropping on their play-by-play commentary from the very first second. He actually found Leo's tactical takes quite impressive. By sunset, the night studies practical exams finally reached their conclusion. Everything wrapped up smoothly with both Celia and Duran, finishing the day with 4 wins and only 1 loss. Chen Xia mirrored that success. Out of 5 grueling clashes, only a single defeat marred their records. Meanwhile, Leo Plav absolutely dominated with a flawless 5-0 sweep, seizing his throne as the undisputed rank 1. 7 days after that chaotic night exam, the general linguistics written finals finally came to a close. A typically messy, Professor Edmund gave his students props for surviving the semester's brutal grind. As he exited, he dropped a final warning: low scores would still send some students packing. The moment he left, Class 5 went wild. Even the high-energy Eliana was low-key spiraling over potential expulsion. Elsewhere, the academic tryhards swarmed Chelsea, desperate to glimpse her legendary high-score answer key. While they scrambled for her golden sheet, the class president was caught in 4K, fast asleep at his desk. Nelia, seated right in front, nudged Leo awake to grill him about his performance on the exam. He claimed he did fine, but his face said otherwise. Nelia loved seeing the god-tier class rep look so human. She teased that if he was hurting her, healing magic was just one emergency call away. Carl eavesdropped on the offer and immediately butt in, whining about his super stiff back and shoulders. Before he could finesse a free heal, Chelsea delivered a swift, painful reality check right to his spine. With the clown dealt with, Chelsea pivoted to Leo, asking about his progress with summoning practicals. Word on the street via Tide was that Leo was a total ghost at the summoning practice fields. Typical Leo, he'd been low-key grinding in secret. Staying off the radar was exactly his vibe. Chelsea hyped him up, asking what rank he wanted. Honestly, asking Leo that is just a mood. Obviously, he's aiming for the top. Soon, faculty and seniors swarmed the arena for the legendary summoning exam. The climax of the first semester for every freshman was finally here: the summoned creature race. Today's hype man is Rumbates, a third-year elite from the summoning department, providing live commentary. Blown away by the spectacle, Celia questioned if this was actually a test or just a massive festival. He noted that this race is a deep-rooted tradition that defines the entire summoning department's legacy. Plus, it's a premier event for interdepartmental exchanges, so the hype surrounding it is always through the roof. Wherever there's a crowd, Carl smells a massive bag and a chance to secure some profit. He launched his popcorn and soda hustle again, and business was already booming before the first whistle. The stands were electric, but backstage, the silence among the competitors was straight up suffocating and eerie. The freshmen were already shaking, and the roaring crowd only cranked their anxiety up to 11. Meanwhile, the heavy hitters Liu Chenxia and the white-haired duo locked in, focusing solely on the coming trial. Eliza Hergen, the elite daughter of the North's legendary hero family, stepped up to confront Leo. She acknowledged his clutch performance in the night exams, but immediately questioned if he'd actually prepared for this. She wasn't buying his hype. After all, Leo was a total no-show for every single group practice session. Once she called him out, the haters jumped on the bandwagon, demanding Leo back down and quit. They claimed he wasn't serious. Nobody had even seen him successfully bond with a summon yet. Tide tried to tell the class to touch grass and chill, but these fools just kept on yapping. They screamed at Tide for defending a golden boy who was clearly disrespecting their entire craft. Chen Xia felt the tension peaking. Suddenly, a freshman named Sen Liu approached her before the kickoff. He suggested that since her night exam scores were cracked, she should just coast through the summoning portion. Sick of the noise, Walden Titan, the Southern Continent's captain, and the department's top seed finally made his move. He silenced the room instantly. If they wanted to flex their practice hours, they could do it elsewhere. Get lost. Hearing Walden's ego-tripping trash talk, Sen Liu's blood began to boil with pure rage. Walden doubled down, roasting the noobs for acting like simply riding a summon was a legendary feat. Oblivious to the shade, Sen Liu snapped back, asking Walden if he felt guilty for skipping taming practice. Walden ditched because that elementary training was just a massive waste of his precious time. He wasn't some amateur who needed drills just to manage a high-tier mirror griffin properly. Mastering mirror griffins was second nature to him. He didn't need pointless drills to prove his dominance. Sen Liu, that absolute clown, lunged at Walden, but our Sigma Leo intercepted him to shut it down. Crushing the fool's wrist, he hissed that pre-exam brawls lead to consequences far worse than a simple slap. Try disqualification. That reality check made the loser retreat. Tide approached Leo with an apologetic look. Sensing the toxic vibes among the freshmen, he explained the massive ego gap in the summoning department. The power gap between majors and minors is insane. Since Leo and Chen Xia aren't pure summoners, they're still crushing the leaderboard. This pushed the older students to order a freshman hit on them. They claim Leo is just a lazy golden boy riding on luck. To them, his absence is pure disrespect. Leo isn't slacking, but sinister eyes watch from the shadows. Something dark is lurking on the sidelines. A hooded figure oozing dark energy, obsessed over the race. He's laser-focused on one specific student. That student is Sen Liu. The loser is radiating a twisted, unnatural power fueled by pure malice. He's ready to kill for the win. Suddenly, Rumbatas steps up to drop the official race rules. Rule 1, only summoning skills allowed. That means no aura or magic for the dual-class prodigies. Using anything else is banned. Once the timer hits 0, they must tame a wild griffin instantly. They'll soar through the massive island of summons, navigating a treacherous path designed to break them. They'll loop around Silent Lake before racing back home. The question is, who's going to steal the show? In this midterm showdown, will the South or East captain prevail? Can Eliza carry her family's legacy? Will Sen Liu's secret weapon flip the script? Or will Leo Plov drop another absolute masterclass today? He needs this win to cement his status as the GOAT. Every racer held their breath at the line. Waiting for the bell, Miss Yura gave a fiery speech. She urged them to kill their nerves. Stick to the training. Anyone who panics and fumbles will be left in the dust today. Her motivational speech actually backfired, cranking up the anxiety. Then she gave the signal to get ready. With a roar that shook the stadium, she unleashed the chaos of the annual summoned creature race. While the herd rushed the stables, a select group launched a surprise strike using elemental summons. They didn't even hesitate. A barrage of elemental techniques flew toward Walden and Leo without warning. Even the announcer gasped. The summoning students are straight up jumping the crowd favorites right now. Leo barked at Tide to ignore the drama and focus on the test. He's got this handled. Trusting his friend, Tide mounted his griffin and took off, leaving the class rep behind. The crowd hissed in disapproval. They knew it was a dirty move to target the frontrunners. Leo knew these haters were salty, but he didn't expect such a desperate, coordinated ambush. Rumbatas noted that despite the boos, this savage play is technically a valid tactical move. However, Walden shattered the elemental trap with pure, raw strength. Magic remnants flickered around him. Unbothered, he strode toward the stables and tamed a beast with 0 effort. Total flex. Mounting up, he glanced back at Leo, offering a hand if things got too spicy. Leo declined. This petty harassment was barely a warm-up. Without a word, Walden rocketed into the clouds. He accelerated instantly, leaving Leo as the only racer still grounded on the starting stage. Chen Xia didn't move. She watched her man trapped in a cage of hostile elemental magic. Miss Yura's brow furrowed in worry. The rivalry among these freshmen was becoming a blood feud. They were openly ganging up on the ace. This was far beyond a simple school competition. Knowing Leo specialized in summons, she feared breaking free from this magic web would be impossible. But she was dead wrong. A blinding radiance suddenly erupted, forcing everyone to look. Leo chanted a rhythmic ancient script commanding the elemental spirits to shatter his chains. Instantly, sylphs from every element answered his call, surging forward as one. Mastering even a few words of ancient spirit language is legendary. He just recited an entire chant. Leo Plov is the gift that keeps on giving. Miss Yura stared into his fierce eyes. She exhaled a breath she didn't know she was holding. Her worries were completely unnecessary. Eliza must trap this brat in the summoning department before Leo even leaves the starting line. The pack is miles ahead. The thugs who sabotaged Leo and Walden are cackling while spitting insults at their prey. Smirking at the thought of the southern prodigy failing, the bullies demanded Eliza's take on the situation. She snapped back, claiming she'd crush Leo Plov and Walden Titan in a fair fight, 0 cheats required. Eliza fretted over the summoning class's reputation, while the punks just craved to see the geniuses eat dirt. Sick of their yap, Eliza surged forward, dropping a cold warning for the goons to use their brains. Sen Liu's blood boiled at her arrogance. At this speed, snagging silver right behind her was basically guaranteed. In his mind, nobody besides Eliza could rival his mastery over these winged beasts. Mid-thought, a blur of feathers and speed tore right through the cluster of idiots. It was Chengxia. She wasn't just riding, she was basically surfing the wind with pure style. Her technique is insane. She's blitzing everyone without even tapping into her soul energy for a boost. Spooked by Zia's sudden arrival, Senlu's gang shifted their lethal focus toward the eastern representative. A mage fired a bolt of holy light at Chenxia, but our aerial ace felt the heat coming. She lunged onto the griffin's wing, waiting for the impact before leaping into the empty sky. A flawless mid-air flip left the amateurs gawking as she literally parkoured through their pathetic ambush. Sticking the landing, Chenxia coiled her legs like springs before exploding off her mount like a rocket. She locked onto her attacker using raw momentum to deliver a bone-shattering kick to the girl's gut. Plunging from her beast, the girl shrieked that Chenxia had to be using some kind of cheat code. Total skill issue. Chenxia didn't even touch her aura, that was just 100% pure martial arts. Threat neutralized. She kicked it into high gear, tossing a casual greeting to Senlu as she soared. They were old acquaintances from back home, but he met her smile with nothing but pure venom. He barked that crossing him was a death sentence. Zia might struggle in a real sky-high dogfight, though. Senlu has bigger fish to fry. A monster royally pissed by the earlier sabotage is closing in fast. A violent explosion suddenly painted the sky a deep fiery red. Walden is roasting these fools with terrifying spirit arts. He's clearly the type to demand payback with interest. He decimated the idiots who thought their petty little tricks could actually hold him back. This sky-high slaughter was just a small thank you. Terrified, the remaining goons scrambled like panicked flies. They ran like cowards, but Walden's relentless skill meant there was nowhere left to hide. Every spell struck gold, knocking riders out of the race as the starting clouds went up in smoke. The announcer's voice boomed, spotlighting Leo's desperate struggle to close the gap on the frontrunners. The freshman rep is on the brink of total failure. Free from the lock, it's now or never. He has to break the final griffin in the stables. If this fails, his race ends right here. Leo scanned the beast, spotting a jagged, fresh wound on its wing. This was no accident. The same thugs did this. For supposed heroes in training to be this cruel, absolutely pathetic. The moment Leo gripped the leather, the griffin went absolutely ballistic, thrashing in pure panic. Everyone knows, trying to force a wild griffin without building trust is basically a suicide mission. From the bleachers, the Zerdinger duo watched one gripped by anxiety, the other by burning curiosity. It appeared the boy was choosing violence, planning to brute force his way into the creature's soul. He felt the beast's terror, but there's zero time for gentleness. He needs results right now. Locking eyes with the frantic beast, Leo unleashed a chilling aura, forcing the creature to its knees. Paralyzed by his sheer presence, the griffin surrendered. A new terrifying bond was forged in seconds. Ripping the shard from its wing, Leo swung into the saddle with the grace of a king. Engines on. With master-level control, he guided the Titan out of the stables and into the light. The cameras panned to the straggler, and the entire crowd gasped at the sight of the bloodied wing. The announcer began wondering aloud if the famous first-year rep was about to suffer a humiliating defeat. Leo shared a silent moment with his beast, sensing the agonizing burden it had been carrying. Invoking their sacred bond, he summoned his soul partner. Fiore, the phoenix, blazed into existence, shimmering mid-air. Still as cute as ever. With a mental nudge, Leo tasked the fledgling with mending the mangled wing. Sacred phoenix fire enveloped the panicked creature. Confused by the heat, the bird struggled against the flames. Glued to the monitor, Celia's eyes widened in shock. She couldn't even recognize the origin of those mysterious flames. Her brother realized this wasn't mere monofire. This was a completely alien, overwhelming, and primal force. On the front lines, the aftermath was brutal. Most fodder racers were already severely battered and broken. Survivors scrambled to distance themselves from the psychotic Walden. Now they just wanted to avoid finishing last. Sadly for them, the true monster has awakened. Draped in phoenix fire, Leo is officially entering beast mode. Leo's griffin took flight with newfound vigor. With rivals in sight, it's finally time to redline this beast. But as he moved for the crown, a literal dragon appeared. Or at least that's the illusion. For a regressor like Leo, that beast was hauntingly familiar. It's a Fafnir. He couldn't believe his eyes. It was no illusion. Moments ago, Eliza had dropped back from the lead to intercept Walden's path. To secure the top spot, she realized this monster had to be neutralized and stopped immediately. With a casual snap, Walden unleashed spirit fire that erupted into chaos. Eliza maneuvered through it unscathed. She quickly deduced his trick. Walden was fusing wind and fire spirits to create lethal, volatile bombs. Only a freak like Walden could pull that off. Eliza was genuinely rattled by his monstrous talent. Perched atop his mount, Walden felt like an impenetrable wall, ready to pulverize anyone in his way. But don't sleep on Eliza. As a prestigious heir, she still had a few lethal aces left. Massive damage means nothing if the target is gone. If he can't hit her, he loses. Her strategy was simple. Use god-tier reflexes to dance through the hail of explosions without a scratch. Annoyed by her dodging, Walden swapped his spirits. He pivoted his strategy to manipulate a different element. Massive, razor-sharp ice spears began to manifest. The icicles were numerous and ready to impale everything. Every icicle was elementally buffed. Eliza just scoffed instantly, pushing her mount's hidden potential to the limit. Her griffin bulked up into a savage predator. In a true battle shonen moment, it blasted a flamethrower. She controlled the intense heat with precision, vaporizing Walden's ice spears before they could even reach her. Walden's offense was completely shut down by Eliza's fortified and empowered bird summon. The commentator was hyped watching this clash, but while the elites were busy brawling with each other, Chenxia seized the opening, slipping past the chaos to snatch the lead. Eliza wasn't having it. Not without a cost. Whipping out a purple binding rope, she snagged Chengxia's neck and yanked back. Trapped and grounded, Chengxia saw a spark ignite. She knew she was about to get absolutely cooked. Panicking, Chengxia and her beast pulled off some insane aerial parkour, just as Walden's spirits fused together. Another massive explosion rocked the sky. Mid-air, Chengxia shattered the rope and whistled for her mount. With high IQ moves, Chengxia reclaimed the lead. Honestly, she was vibing with the pure power of summoners. Up ahead, she spotted a bizarre silhouette, something that definitely wasn't a standard ordinary griffin. It looked like a dark wyvern. On its back sat Sen Lu, looking like he was snapping. Drowning in bloodlust, Sen Lu ignored Chengxia as she screamed that using illegal summons was against rules. He didn't care. His burning hatred for the geniuses at the top had finally reached its peak. Eliza and Walden closed in, sensing a foul, abnormal energy radiating from the mysterious figure ahead. Eliza's expert eyes knew the truth that wasn't a wyvern. It was a twisted, dangerous irregularity. That's when Leo Plov blitzed the leaders on his blazing griffin, showing off some insane top-tier speed. Empowered by Phoenix Fire, Leo was flying. Meanwhile, Sen Lu was ready to take on everyone simultaneously. He was out for blood. But then Leo's cold voice cut through the air, looking down. He demanded to know where the brat found that lizard. Sen Lu laughed, thinking Leo was salty. Proud of his weak skills, Sen Lu failed to see Leo looking at him like a clown. Perched atop a Fafnir, a monstrous calamity once wielded by Tartaros' mages, he looked down. This was the same nightmare fuel Kyle's legendary party once hunted to the brink, wiped out during the Age of Despair. So how is this brat summoning a literal ghost? Mistaking it for a wyvern, Sen Lu commanded an attack. Laser breath incinerated the very atmosphere. Leo and Walden exerted raw power, barely surging out of the laser's lethal path. Eliza spiraled away desperately, but the beam locked on, tracking Chengxia like a heat-seeking missile. Leo's warning screamed out as she frantically manifested an aura shield for a last-ditch defense. Too slow. The barrier was incomplete when the laser collided, shattering her defenses instantly. Cracks spiderwebbed across the field, before the overwhelming force vaporized the shield entirely. Her griffin slumped unconscious and bleeding, sending them both into a terminal freefall. No parachute, no problem. Leo dove effortlessly, intercepting Chengxia midair like a seasoned pro. Priorities first, get her to safety. He barked orders, taking command of Walden and Eliza. Touchdown now. Even these arrogant elites couldn't help but obey his commanding aura. Above, the Fafnir circled like an apex predator, while a dark influence gripped Sen Lu's mind. This intoxicating power. Looking down on everyone from above, he was absolutely addicted to it. The announcers panicked. The lead racers had vanished from the cameras, veering completely off course. The final feed showed Sen Lu's wyvern launching a brutal assault on the Academy's top aces. Miss Yura stormed the booth, ejecting the student caster. Play-by-play is over. This is a crisis. Grabbing the mic, she mobilized the summoning professors. They needed every flying beast in the air. Race suspended priority rescue professors Len and Sejun burst in, faces pale with dread. Yura dropped the bombshell. A student had forged a pact with a high-tier demonic calamity. The mention of demonic beasts chilled them. That dark influence would soon devour the boy's sanity. Edmund arrived, suggesting a darker truth. Perhaps something else was pulling the beast's strings. Suspecting external control over the beast, he ordered Yura to neutralize Sen Lu immediately. Faculty scrambled to safeguard students. Despite their bitter rivalry, the teachers stood united now. Sejun and Edmund buried the hatchet. Their students' lives were worth more than any petty feud. A legendary duo was born. Meanwhile, deep in the field, Leo secured a concealed perimeter. He checked Chengxia's vitals as she lay unconscious. Eliza and Walden touched down shortly after. Tranquility vanished. Sen Lu zeroed in on them, the Fafnir's massive weight crushing the earth. Sen Lu mistakenly thought Leo was retreating. Leo just sighed, ready to school this delusional clown. That's no wyvern, you idiot. You're riding a Fafnir, a true demonic calamity. Panic flared. As Leo stepped forward, the phantom of a legendary hero began to overlap. Kyle's shadow loomed. Leo remembered the carnage back when he purged these filth from existence, until they were extinct. Now, this former hero was ready to claim one more trophy. A nostalgic hunt for a disgusting pest. With icy resolve, he marched toward the beast. The beast loomed, but Sen Lu just cackled, his mind already fractured by the monster's corruption. Eyes bloodshot and aggression peaking, his suppressed inferiority complex exploded into pure, unadulterated madness. He was desperate, starving for a victory that would finally put him above the Academy aces. He commanded it. The Fafnir unleashed its catastrophic world-ending laser breath again. Just before impact, the earth erupted. A massive stone hand clawed its way out. A towering golem emerged, tanking the full force of the laser with its rocky hide. Slaughtering pests. Now that was a mission Walden could actually vibe with. Walden grinned. Seeing his ultimate move negated by mere magic, Senlu began to spiral. Eliza joined the fray, annoyed by Walden's posturing, but fully aware of the stakes. The aces synchronized. The golem was crumbling. It was now or never to launch their counteroffensive. Watching Eliza and Walden trade barbs in a literal death zone brought a faint, nostalgic smirk to Leo's face. Legends are always total weirdos regardless of the era. As the golem finally crumbled, Sen Liu's massive ego came crawling back. Taunting Walden to summon something actually threatening, the group vanished into thin air the moment the monster turned into rubble. Eliza ignited the assault with her enchanted violet cord. It lashed and coiled like a living predator under her absolute command. It closed the gap to Sen Liu instantly. While she handled the crowd, a single snap of the fingers triggered the carnage. Ember sparks ignited across the Fafnir's metallic hide as it primed its core for another devastating blast of pure energy. Walden rigged the vital points with surgical precision, detonating his spiritual charges in one glorious blast. With his job finished, it was finally time for Leo Prow to step up. Cutting through the billowing smoke, he lunged straight for Sen Liu's throat. Faster than a heartbeat, he snatched the loser by the scalp and buried a bone-shattering kick right into his jaw. The impact nearly sent the kid flying, but a dark entity had already hijacked his soul, mocking Leo's tactical move. By separating the boy from the beast, this mysterious phantom had already rooted itself deep within its new perfect vessel. Sensing the sudden spike in killing intent, the demonic creature surged upward, dragging Leo into the clouds for a duel. Stuck on the ground, Walden and Eliza watched as the possessed puppet sneered, asking if Leo was finally feeling terror. Leo's only answer was a brutal punch aimed directly at the Tartaros beast tamer currently piloting the boy's physical shell. This phantom had never faced such steel. Leo's eerie composure completely dismantled the secrecy he had hidden behind for centuries. Amidst the chaos, the tamer saw flashes of those ancient legends in the boy's eyes. And that meant only one thing. He could not allow Leo to reach his peak. He was a massive threat wielding a terrifyingly polished spiritual art. A violent swipe sent Leo reeling. Unable to find his footing in the sky, he plummeted toward the earth like a stone. Even in freefall, his nerves stayed icy. He called upon Fiore, and suddenly Phoenix fire began to waltz across the heavens. Toying with a sphere of flame, the thrill of battle took him back to his past life as Kyle the first hero. Yet he would be the first to confess he was a jack of all trades who never truly mastered one single path. Master of none, indeed. When it came to pure aura capacity, monsters like Aaron and Dueno were in another league entirely. Luna's magic was far superior, and as for the art of summoning, Lucinus was a literal god compared to him. But that versatility was his true weapon. It let him fuse powers and pioneer techniques that the world had never imagined. Channeled through his link with Fiore, Leo blended aura and summoning lore to weave a spell of absolute destruction. Spiritual energy and aura are usually infinite parallel paths. However, when these two rivers collide, the result is truly broken. The outcome was legendarily overpowered. The tiny chick was gone. In her place stood a majestic, rising adolescent phoenix. Regal and terrifying, her blazing wings set the sky on fire as she swooped down to snatch Leo from death. Sensing the divine heat, the demon beast hissed in agitation. The handler's smirk vanished, replaced by a cold, deadly seriousness. He demanded to know Leo's true identity, but Leo just grinned, suggesting a nice little exchange of secrets instead. Leo sought the source of the Fafnir, but this anomalous student knew far too much about the forbidden age of despair. This was a threat that had to be erased. Predicting the beast's lunge, Leo unsheathed his blade and began weaving fire. He funneled the phoenix's heat into his steel. Fortunately, the Zerdinger style was practically built to house that celestial breath. This allowed his ultimate move, Prominence, to transcend its limits. The Fafnir's lethal beam of light surged forward, clashing with Leo's legendary flames. It was an epic struggle of pure power, and Leo refused to give an inch. Meanwhile, Sen Liu's mind was melting under the possession. The Fafnir faltered mid-air, its movements becoming jagged and weak. A roar of agony ripped through the beast, throwing the tamer off balance and opening a window for the final strike. Sensing the demon's flickering life force, Leo did not hesitate. He doubled down on his assault, smelling blood in the water. With a primal roar, he unleashed every drop of his stored energy to crush his foe once and for all. The tamer could only scream in vain as Phoenix fire invaded the beast's body, incinerating its internals from within. Flames erupted from every gap in its hide. Leo had won thanks to Fiore's absolute masterpiece of a performance. Gasping for breath, he prepared to head back, only to realize the Phoenix's time limit had just hit 0. A fatal oversight. Now, Leo was plummeting toward the earth, his screams echoing as death rushed up to meet him. Miles below the true physical body of the Tartaro's handler, sat in deep meditation hidden within the shadows of the forest. Before he could trigger another trap, a blinding radiance washed over the woods, followed by a bone-crushing godly pressure. The pressure crushed the villain's stance. Sejun arrived instantly, neutralizing the target. Beside him stood Edmund, wreathed in shadow. The handler realized he faced Lumen's titans. Outmatched and desperate, the coward tore open reality to make his escape. Failure tasted bitter, yet his thirst for chaos remained unquenched. He'd return. A nightmarish smoke beast erupted from the rift, bearing rows of jagged teeth. This eldritch horror turned on its summoner, crushing him with unfathomable weight. When the mist evaporated, the rift and handler had vanished without a trace. Only toxic clouds remained. The professors sensed a dark tide finally rising. Sejun gathered evidence, realizing the academy's walls were no longer a sanctuary. Meanwhile, Leo plummeted. He dismissed his Phoenix Fiore back to the spirit realm. Suddenly, a winged savior snatched Leo just before he hit the deck. Miss Yura sat tall atop her black wyvern, appearing like a goddess. Her radiant smile beamed with relief. She'd arrived just in the nick of time. They touched down gently. Elsewhere, the wounded handler crawled into a dark hole. At headquarters, his supervisor watched his pathetic return with absolute loathing. Defeated by a mere trainee, the bleeding handler hissed his desperate defense. This was no ordinary boy. The kid commanded a legendary high-tier phoenix. The boss's interest spiked. Then Leo's knowledge of Fafnir's identity changed everything. Curiosity turned to cold dread. The supervisor licked his lips in anticipation. He craved a rematch. Back at Lumen, the midterm race was officially scrapped. The tragedy left Senlu's mind shattered. He didn't survive the mental trauma. The freshmen finally understood the lethal stakes of their prestigious new home. While rumors swirled about Senlu Yura, demanded total silence from everyone. They fabricated a story about a rogue beast to bury the dark truth. Leo ignored the conspiracies for now. It was time for his magic final. Professor Lenz waited like a stone sentinel inside the grand lecture hall. Carr and Chelsea watched as Chloe entered, looking absolutely wrecked and exhausted. Sleep deprivation lined her face. Leo followed his worry for her growing. The room went silent. Lenz's voice boomed, signaling the high-stakes exam start. This wasn't a drill. He demanded innovation, flair, and absolute raw power. These talents deserved an audience. He invited some elite guest judges today. 3 legendary seniors walked in, their reputations preceding them like a storm. These graduates had already conquered the world beyond the academy's safe walls. Rilda, Edmund, and Sean prepared to grade the nervous, fresh-faced class. Their warm greetings lifted the mood. Carr felt like his luck was turning. He bet on their leniency. The true test was about to begin. Eliana Loudon stepped up first, her smile masking a fierce, burning ambition. She owned the stage, dialing her innocent charm up to 100. With starry-eyed grace, she greeted the seniors like a perfect young lady. Carr gagged internally. He saw right through her fake, noble-born character act. Eliana ignited a dazzling light show that bathed the entire lecture hall. Her rare light affinity was stunning, but she was just warming up. She fused fire with light, creating a lethal and beautiful elemental combination. Searing rays danced around her, proof of her absolute elemental mastery. She unleashed devastating thermal magic. Even the judges were left breathless. Eliana felt confident in her thermal ray display, but it was just a basic laser spell any rookie could replicate. Without a single question, the judges began scribbling her fate. The trio sat in silence, weighing her performance carefully. They measured her skills against the rubric to find the right mark. After a brief huddle, the final verdict was passed. Professor Lin received the results. Hugh and Rilda slapped her with a C-, though Slark went slightly higher with a C. That left her with a crushing C-. Seeing even a talent like Eliana flop sent a wave of anxiety through the room. One by one, mages stepped up, only to watch their months of grinding crumble into mediocre grades. Most left with nothing but C's and C-. However, Karthama broke the streak, snatching a shocking B+. His mastery over metal and gold stole the show. But of course, Chelsea Llewellyn reigned supreme as the top scorer. Her stunning wind sorcery earned a glorious A. The fox and cat duo cheered over their win, relieved the exam was finally over. Little did the rookies know the panel was actually feeling let down by the lackluster show. Lin had promised them legendary talent to get them here, but so far, not a single student had truly outshined the rest. With only 3 files left, Idmund Slark sensed the shift. He knew these final names were the true heavy hitters. The elite players were saved for the grand finale. First up on the stage was the crowd favorite Abad Llewellyn. Chelsea's brother arrived, and his presence immediately set the room on fire. If the girls were in charge of grading, he'd get an A+ just for being eye candy. But unlike the previous flashy mages, Abad's opening was surprisingly subtle. He dove deep into the complex mechanics of his original spell. Once the logic was set, he revealed its name. Behold the Tempest. Professor Lin beamed while the panel leaned in, completely hooked by his explanation. This prodigy claimed his finished Tempest would sit comfortably at the pinnacle of high-rank sorcery. Abad hadn't been resting. He'd been grinding this spell for ages back at the Llewellyn estate. He ran endless trials polishing the Tempest. He even needed the clan elders to supervise his dangerous training. They formed a massive shield to contain any disaster. Locked in total focus, the Llewellyn mages braced themselves. This gave Abad the freedom to push his limits and tweak his magic. He unleashed the beast within, defying gravity as his body hovered weightlessly in the sky. The Tempest woke up with a primal roar. He ignited every cell in his body to conquer the wind. He forced the gales to yield. Soon the chaotic air swirled into a catastrophic world-ending storm. It was a force meant to obliterate. The raw energy was so violent even the Elder's barrier started cracking. 4 Master Mages struggled to hold it back. Opening his eyes, Abad saw the vortex's terrifying reach. A stray animal was being sucked into the sky. Panic flared. He wouldn't let his ambition kill an innocent soul. His desperate need to protect gave him the final burst of willpower to fully tame the raging storm. Abad's a true legend, arguably the best hero candidate, well, if we ignore a certain someone. Back at the academy, he showcased a miniature version of the Tempest. Unleashing its true power would level the campus. It sounds like a simple wind buff, but the reality is complex. The panel recognized the insane high-level logic required. Abad strutted back to his seat with a clear victory. He scored the first clean A+ of the day. Chelsea could barely contain her sisterly pride. She flexed that her brother is just built different. And speaking of built different, Lynn started grinning. The professor was vibrating with excitement for the next showcase. It was finally time for the golden boy, Leo Plov. He stepped up with zero hesitation, his voice steady as he pitched his revolutionary magic. His secret weapon, a no-attribute system. He'd never admit it, but it's the same power he wielded, back when he was the legendary hero of the beginning. Now he boldly declared his void-based system. The judges stared in shock. They'd never heard of such a crazy concept. They demanded to know more. Leo happily broke it down. It's common knowledge that every spell requires a core elemental attribute to function. It's the golden rule of magic. But Leo's thesis was a game changer, a streamlined high sorcery system that would evolve spellcasting forever. The panel's jaws dropped their reactions, a mix of confusion and awe. Some were doubtful, others stunned. They pressed him. Was he seriously planning to rewrite the laws of magic? The seniors scoffed, refusing to believe such an insane claim could ever be possible. Professor Len was beaming eyes, sparkling like jewels, clearly desperate to snag Leo for his squad. Meanwhile, Idman Slack was totally unimpressed, convinced Leo was just chasing clout with fake news. The panel demanded cold, hard facts, not some fantasy bedtime story. Despite the saltiness in the room, Professor Len couldn't hold back, practically begging Leo to spill the secrets of his system. Seeing the veteran professor so hyped, the other judges had no choice but to sit back and watch. Leo Plov grabbed the chalk and began scribbling complex formulas. A heavy silence washed over the hall, broken only by the rhythmic tapping against the slate. Idman scoffed, claiming only one legend had ever pioneered a completely unique casting method. Leo didn't even blink as he answered, acknowledging that only the legendary star poet Luna had ever reached those heights. Sean Hugh was fuming. This rookie was basically claiming he belonged in the same league as the greatest heroes of all time. But Leo just shook his head. He wasn't that arrogant. Compared to Luna, he was nothing. He explained that you don't need to be a god-tier genius to innovate. He simply pointed toward the blackboard, and to their shock, every single equation was flawless. This wasn't some desperate bluff. The structure was insane, a system designed to wield any element without a single drawback. Even Chelsea, the resident theory whiz, found herself completely lost in Leo's logic. Carr had already checked out by the first sentence. Meanwhile, Chloe's intense gaze never left her rival. Finally, the stunned judges asked the big question. Why build something so revolutionary? Leo's response was chillingly straightforward. He wanted total mastery over every spell in existence. Suddenly, Idman's doubt flipped into pure hype. Now he saw why the professor claimed this year's freshmen were on another level. When asked for a name, Leo smirked and ignited a thread of blinding mana that flooded the room with light condensing into a sphere of raw, terrifying power. He called it the Bible. Sean Hugh nearly choked. In all of history, only one figure had ever used that title, the legendary, supposedly mythic hero, Kyle. She watched him wondering if this kid was about to prove the legends were actually real. After the fastest vote in the Academy's history, the panel handed their verdict to the professor. Len's face lit up the moment he saw the results. It was official, Leo Plov secured an A+. As he walked away, Leo remembered his failure as Kyle. This time he wouldn't stop until his work was finished.